After a very eventful and sometimes volatile March 2025 with both a Mercury and Venus retrograde, we had 2 eclipses, we had Neptune's moving into Aries, and we still have Mars still stuck in Cancer. April 2025 finally feels like we're starting to move forward. So in this video, we're going to be talking all about the astrology overview of April 2025. We're going to be looking at the astrology collectively, kind of what it represents, important dates and things to kind of mark on your calendar, as well as looking at how that energy impacts your rising sign. So we're going to be looking at the new moon, the full moon, and kind of everything ahead of the month. That way you have a very kind of complete, or mostly complete picture of the month's astrology for your sign way ahead of time. So I'm Alexander Creek, astrologer and intuitive. Make sure that you like this video, that you subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications if you like what you are seeing, and leave me content. Maybe let me know if you like this new format, or just let me know maybe how things are going for you, how things might be impacting your sign and your astrology. And a reminder that I do readings professionally. So if you want an astrology birth chart reading, or looking at a detailed forecast for the year, or if you want more of like a psychic medium reading, I do both of those things. Head over to my website, dogstaroracle.com, to work with me. So let's talk the astrology. So April 2025, Mercury and Venus will both be stationing direct, and Mars is finally going to get out of Cancer. It's been in the sign of its depression or its fall. Mars, the planet of action and energy, due to a lengthy retrograde, will finally be moving out of Cancer and into Leo, a sign that Mars regains a lot of strength in. Mercury and Venus will both be stationing retrograde as well. And, given that March has sort of been this lengthy review and revise period, getting clarity in like multiple life areas. April, I just have a sense, just kind of by looking at everything, that this is a time of moving forward and executing action finally. Venus in particular goes direct in a very splashy, very dramatic way. As Venus's direct station coincides with a full moon actually in Libra. And because Venus rules Libra, it's sort of like this full moon is sort of announcing Venus's, direct station forward. And it's a very kind of fascinating, very diva like way for Venus to sort of announce her direct station. It's really kind of fascinating. We do also have a new moon in Taurus on April 27th. And then on the last day of the month, Venus leaves Pisces and retraces its step back to Aries on April 30th. So let's go ahead and break down the astrology of the month here. So first of all, we have Mercury stationing direct. That is happening on April 7th. And this is going to be at 26 degrees of Pisces. Mercury, that planet of communication, of messages, of how we think, of systems, and how, in technology and how everything works together. The world really kind of runs on Mercury. I'll say, it's direct station in Pisces. I'm going to share my screen. And if you are on YouTube, you can kind of see all of these charts I'm going to put up. And if you're just listening to the podcast, you'll be able to see it, but it's okay. But YouTube does kind of give that little extra bonus. So, but I just like to see what I'm talking about here, So first of all, Mercury going direct, does that solve all of our problems? No. Does it help somewhat? Yes. It's the first of sort of many ripples, I think, in April of kind of things beginning to move forward. One thing, though, I will say about Mercury's direct station is give that a couple days. If you're really needing mental clarity, the direct station is going to help. But remember that when Mercury stations direct, or any planet stations direct, it's sort of like it screeches to a halt in the sky and backs up or turns around and changes direction, at least from our vantage point. And so it's going to take Mercury a couple days after April 7th to really get going. In particular, I really kind of feel like I would say kind of use caution when, with important communications or signing contracts or making big decisions, because it doesn't really get to full strength, I'm going to say, until about April 19th. Because when just for a few reasons. Mercury retrograde is not the worst thing in the world. It's more when Mercury is in a sign that it doesn't particularly love to operate in, and also when it's with Neptune. It's going to be doing both of those things when it stations direct. So first of all, when it stations direct at 26 degrees of Pisces on April 27th, Pisces is the sign of Mercury's fall and detriment. So it does, like on a technical level, have a hard time kind of clearly functioning in that sign. Being able to make clear, rational decisions, being able to execute contracts, being able to see how patterns work and make sure systems are sort of operating effectively. Again, direct station, good. There's a trend, from April 7th on of like, okay, we're starting to move forward. We're starting to get more clarity. However, it's stationing direct in Pisces is still a little challenging for that sign. And then as it gets to Aries on April 16th, it runs right into the sign, or it runs right into Neptune, that planet of dreams and illusion and like confusion. So I will say the days around April 16th, a very inspired place for Mercury to be, can really may really help with like creativity and tapping into the ether and tapping into the like the cosmos and other realms and daydreaming and creativity and all of this stuff. But maybe not the best for like clear, rational planning decisions. So just take an extra step if you're like emailing someone an important document and make sure that you're like really like, okay, I see the recipient here. There's no letters that are off. I'm not accidentally texting. I'm not accidentally looping in a journalist on like war plans like the White House just fucking did, which is insane to me. But so, by the way, that happened during a very important day in the Mercury retrograde cycle, by the way, too, which I thought was really interesting. I'm going to say just also on a general level, April 16th, that Mercury-Neptune conjunction, that particular combination of planets and signs, we haven't seen that in since 1875, because Neptune will only have been in Aries for a couple of days. So it'll be interesting to see how that energy is flavored, like that inspirational creativity, daydreamy stuff I was talking about. It's going to have a particular Aries kind of feel to it. I wonder if there's going to be calls to, I'm going to say in the world, there may be sort of calls to inspired action, or like by stepping up and fighting and resisting, we're going to accomplish all our dreams together, because Aries is fighting, it's resisting. Neptune is this sort of inspirational kind of thing. So I'm kind of curious about what that energy looks like. But on a personal level, I would kind of give Mercury until about April 19th to kind of clear that orb of Neptune and like regain kind of like a lot of functional strength. So anyway, long story short, it stations direct on the 7th. It regains kind of full rational power, in my opinion, by April 19th. That would be a date to watch. So the next thing we're going to discuss is the full moon in Libra, happening on April 12th. So this full moon really kind of does signal Venus's sort of change of direction. So first of all, this is the first full moon, newer full moon in a little while that is not an eclipse. So this is not a lunar eclipse. This is a regular full moon. So think themes of culmination and completion, news, awareness, like new understandings. But really, I think connected to sort of matters that Venus rules. Libra is a sign governed by Venus. Venus is the planet of love, beauty, and worth, relationships, pleasure, art. And so with this full moon, I think this full moon really kind of brings focus and clarity to relationships, things that Venus rules, issues of fairness and justice and balance. And I think this is due to, Venus not always stationing direct. She's gained a lot more clarity on relationships and things that bring us pleasure, especially the matters connected to the Aries and Pisces areas of your birth chart. But when she stations direct, she will do so essentially conjunct the planet Saturn. So, when Venus is, Saturn is about commitment, things that last a long time, and like long-term things. So, Venus has sort of gone on her underworld journey when she was retrograde, and she sort of reemerged with a sense of clarity. And she stations direct in Pisces, by the way, too. And she really likes to be in Pisces. She's able to do Venus things really well. This might be a good time to enjoy affections with others, bringing pleasure back to life, to art. But I'm going to say there might be some important decisions, some important decisions concerning these things, or things that are connected to her values. Just because, like Venus conjunct Saturn can bring that important decision making. It's like, do I want to, it's like, this could be like, I thought about it a lot, and I've decided that I really want to go forward with this long-term like relationship commitment, or this commitment to some sort of hobby or craft or art or something. But it's like, again, it's like things connected to long-term commitments that Venus is really, really heavily considering during this full moon in Libra. So it's going to bring some decisions around like relationships and pleasures in art and things connected to the matters of your chart concerning Pisces stuff, which I'll talk about in your sign horoscope. This full moon also, the full moon itself, it's actually opposite Chiron. The sun is going to be almost exactly conjunct Chiron at that time. Chiron is the wounded healer. There's stuff kind of echoing that solar eclipse in Aries that we had just 2 weeks before, where there was some Chiron stuff I talked about in that forecast. We're going to be really aware, I think, with this. We're going to be aware of sort of like what lessons that we've learned or what we're learning. This could also just be aware of like what our wounds are, like what we're still healing from, or just like something sort of, because Chiron is the wounded healer. It's connected to wounds and healing and where we need to heal next. And like there's something very tender about this full moon. So if you're kind of weirdly emotional on this full moon, that could be why. Sort of really, I think, makes us aware of sort of human suffering and how far we've come. And there's something with this full moon almost about like cauterizing a wound, kind of, so we can sort of heal it. It's hard for me to put into words, but it's just something a little extra emotional about this. Lastly, with this full moon in Libra, this full moon is going to be square Mars. So there is something a little touchy or a little irritable, I'm going to say, about this full moon. It's like this full moon essentially, I think, will help you clarify values, relationships, what we value, how much our worth is, where we want to put in our efforts within pleasure and art and relationships and that kind of thing. However, we could also be, this feels like a very active full moon because, Mars is a planet of action, aggression, and energy. And it's in the sign of Cancer, which is kind of a moody place for Mars to be, can be a little extra irritable. So this full moon square Mars, it's sort of like we may have to take action or stand up for ourselves or defend ourselves or someone else in some way. We might feel uncomfortable doing that because this is a very much like a peacemaker. The full moon in Libra is a very kind of peacemaker kind of energy, but there is a little like irritable energy due to Mars. Or it simply could just be more of a time where this might be a good idea to like go get a workout in or kind of go work out a little bit of irritable energy around this full moon, or that we might simply just be putting more effort, like we might be directly putting effort into things like relationships or social things or art things, because those are ruled by Venus. So a little bit of irritating energy from Mars during that full moon. So next, we have Mars going into Leo on April 18th. Thank fucking God. Let me tell you what, I swear, if there is one thing to look forward to this month, it is going to be Mars getting the hell out of Cancer. I have Mars in Cancer in my natal chart, and I saw someone online was like, how do people live with Mars and Cancer in their birth chart? Because the past few months with Mars and Cancer in the sky, I have been so ungodly irritable. And I'm like, listen, let me tell you, it is a struggle. I think it can be a beautiful placement, but it is certainly not an easy one. And so Mars, again, planet of action, energy, the gas in our tank, how we assert ourselves. It's like fire. So Mars has been in Cancer for a long time because it got into Leo a little bit and then it retrograded and in December. And then so it's been in Cancer since January. Mars in Cancer is a more emotional place for Mars to be. Mars does not like to be emotional. Mars is just like, what's the plan? Let's get it done. It doesn't care. And Cancer is very connected to the home and family and emotions. Also, with Mars and Cancer, our motivation has been kind of up and down for a number of reasons, because Cancer is a sign ruled by the moon. The moon is naturally about fluctuation. And also Mars being in the sign where it is fallen on a technical level, because Mars is motivation. It's also kind of like our motivation and energy can also just be very up and down. So Mars going into Leo, massive improvement. It gains a lot of power and dignity by entering Leo. Leo is a passionate, active, strong Mars sign. It is a fire sign. It is very like where Mars and Cancer can be a little timid, like a little careful. Mars and Leo is like, let's fucking go. I know I'm worth it. Let's go. It is also a very tenacious and determined Mars, because Leo is a fixed sign. And fixed signs are like, once they decide on something, it's like, we're going to commit to it and we're going to do it. It will also bring a revisiting of topics because Mars went into Leo originally in November and December 2024. So we're going to be kind of so things connected to the Leo part of your chart, you're really going to be tackling them head on. And it's going to be feeling of like, you know what, I have really gotten a lot of clarity on these things and how I would maybe like to pursue this part of my life or these projects in my life. And really, or if you have a lot of Aries and Scorpio energy, you are ruled by Mars. So Mars going into Leo is, I think, going to be very helpful. It's going to be a breath of fresh air. And same for if you have like a lot of Leo and Cancer placements. Mars has just been stuck in Leo for a while. This is like a breath of fresh air that we can finally move this shit forward. I will say there is going to be a opposition to Pluto, but we're going to talk about that with the Taurus new moon. So Taurus new moon, April 27th. So Taurus new moon, April 27th, coming in about 1:29 Mountain Time. Another kind of interesting. I gotta put my glasses, y'all. I can't see shit. So, Taurus new moon, April 27th, 1:29 p.m. Mountain Time. So again, this is I find like a normal kind of regular new moon. Still a lot of astrology happening with it, of course. There always is, isn't there? I'm actually going to mention. So let's mention the crunchy parts of this new moon first. So, first of all, we have there's really good things about this new moon. There's also some kind of really intense things about this new moon. This is not like if we think Taurus, we think luxurious, we think sensual, we think love, let's rest in our lovely bed sheets and have a nice meal and then, I don't know, good sex, like earthly kind of pleasures. And I think there will be plenty of that with this new moon. So we also think new moon, we think new beginning, a seed being planted, a new cycle. And certainly this can be a time to begin new things or to start new things. But there is like a real intensity around this new moon. That is because this new moon is sort of essentially squaring or making this 90-degree aspect to this Mars and Pluto opposition. So that Mars and Pluto opposition is an aspect that will actually peak the day before the new moon, but it's sort of like the new moon is sort of highlighting it. Mars in Leo, very determined, very tenacious, let's go, very powerful energy, directly opposing Pluto, the planet of power and control. And it's like these two forces are going to kind of meet head on. Under a Mars and Pluto opposition, it's sort of like when you get into like a normal little spat with someone, but it just turns really intense and like it goes from like a spat to like a really bad argument. It's sort of like, things that can like escalate into like on the most extreme version, it's sort of like things that can kind of escalate into extreme violence or extreme heat, passion, fire, like because Pluto is this very kind of intense planet about power and control and manipulation. This is giving me two sides of a battle that are fighting very, very hard. And the last time, essentially, the last time that we had this aspect, it was when Mars was retrograding in Leo, and it opposed Pluto, and essentially around then we had the whole thing with Luigi Mangione, where I think this kind of is going to represent a rage from the general population against like the plutocrats, people with power and control, like in money, and just kind of a vibe of like power struggles in the air, kind of getting, and so that can be something that's sort of happening out in the world. And I think topics of power and control and aggression can definitely be part of this energy. On a personal level, you might just be harnessing this energy to like tenaciously push forward, or there's this like single-minded obsession, right? So I'm kind of wondering what we're going to see in the headlines regarding Luigi and regarding this. I think there's some stuff boiling about a class struggle coming up, especially in the United States. But on a personal level, this new moon, I think there's like this intensely pursuing goal, single-minded obsession. Like, I'm not going to stop until I have accomplished this thing, or I am single-mindedly obsessing about something I want to accomplish or something I need to overcome. There's that part of this full moon, right? And again, little fights can become these like massive blowups. However, because Venus, we have to look at what Venus is doing. Venus rules Taurus. Venus is in Pisces, and Venus has a lot of power and a lot of dignity and a lot of majesty in Pisces. So I think that she'll kind of mitigate and smooth over some of the, like those statements I made about little fights becoming blowups. I think that she'll be able to help us kind of achieve things like diplomacy and smooth things over and kind of let it kind of roll off our back a little bit. But there is this like intensity and obsession energy around this new moon. So I will say the new moon, the moon being in Taurus itself, the moon really likes to be in Taurus. Like, the moon is exalted in Taurus. So she's able to, I think, calm. I think she's able to connect people. I think this new moon, we're going to really be able to care for our physical body and nourish ourselves and nourish others and sort of build security, because Taurus is very interested in building material and emotional security. And there are delights in sensual pleasures. This is, I was going to sneeze. There is a, under this new moon, because this is happening with Venus in Pisces, there is going to be a magnification if you choose to focus on, pleasure, on anything connected to art, on anything connected to decorating, on anything connected to, especially like when you're nurturing the earthy, sensual parts that Taurus likes to. Cooking, feeding oneself, feeding other people, socializing, over drinks and food. It's like that kind of energy under Taurus. It's, I think, going to go well, even though we have this intensity obsession thing. We're going to be able to accomplish Venus type things under this new moon in Taurus, or it's a good idea to start those things under that new moon. Also, Taurus is associated with money and like with security and luxury things. So this could bring some sense to like, I don't know if it's going to necessarily help you make more money under this new moon, but we're certainly going to have more awareness of it, and maybe pushing forward in our goals under that Mars and Pluto opposition. So in general, good for sensual things, good for earthy sensual things, Venus things, pleasure, art, relationship, sex, food, all those things that Taurus loves, that Venus is really able to help provide. So a lot of good things under this new moon, but just definitely that intensity, obsession, power struggle kind of bit. And maybe just use it to accomplish some goals in the gym or in your business or in your personal goals. So a couple days later, last thing of the month I'm going to talk about, Venus re-enters Pisces. She's going to be in Pisces. So Venus will be in Pisces until June 6th. Or excuse me, Venus will be in Aries until June 6th. So that's just something minor I wanted to bring up. It will be interesting because Venus is going to be retracing her steps where she went retrograde, essentially. So she's entering Aries with a new sense of clarity, with a new sense of, with a new sense around her like worth and relationships and that kind of thing. And Venus is able, to bring opportunities and to smooth things over, wherever she is kind of moving through in your chart. But when she gets into Aries, it's definitely a more feisty version of Venus. She's not super smooth. Venus and Aries flirting with you is like, hey, you're hot, you want to go out? Versus like little flirty Venus games, right? So, it will definitely be a change in tone. It will definitely be one that. So on April 30th, Venus will move into Aries and be there until approximately June 6th. This is a technical sort of change of Venus's ability to smooth over, to attract, to flirt. I personally love Venus in Aries, but she is definitely feistier and I think a little crunchier in achieving her aims in Aries. She goes from Pisces, where she's really elevated in her ability, to Aries. Venus flirting in Aries is like, I think you're hot, you want to go out sometime, versus Pisces, who might write you a love letter or something connected to that. So I think it will, Venus going back into Aries will definitely be interesting in that she is revisiting the place where she went retrograde initially. So once we get past, once we get past around, I think it's that 10-degree mark, really like past May 15th, Venus will be in new territory. She will be getting into those degrees of Aries that she hasn't been in for a long time, because she went retrograde, I think, about 8 or 9 degrees. So I think maybe expect some sort of new topics kind of once we get to mid-May, but that's kind of outside of the scope of this video. But just know there is that sign change at the end of the month. And I'm going to kind of briefly cover what that means for your rising sign. So let's go ahead and get to those rising sign horoscopes. And we'll talk about what this means for you personally. So here we go. So first of all, we're going to be going in order of the zodiac, starting with Aries. And if you are wanting to access your sign right away, just go ahead and click on either the chapters on YouTube, and that'll take you right to your sign, or you can look up the timestamps in the comments. And also, if you're listening to the audio, just click on the episode details or where it says show notes, and all the timestamps will be there. So you can kind of zip forward right to your sign. I do recommend listening to your rising sign. That's how I write these horoscopes, and most astrologers write them. You can listen for your sun or moon if you would like. However, I would recommend the rising first, and then maybe blending the sun or moon into it as well. But I think the rising is going to give you the best bang for your buck. So Aries rising. Mercury is going direct on April 7th. In your 12th house. It's going direct in Pisces, maybe giving you some clarity. I think maybe like the clarity that's going to be helping you get is going to be maybe found in like alone time or meditation, anything kind of connected to like rest and retreat kind of themes. This full moon is happening on April 12th in Libra in your partnership sector. There's some maybe decision regarding relationships or partnerships or your commitments, or just those awarenesses are really going to be highlighted around this full moon. It's going to be really strong. This could definitely be like, hey, we've been kind of in a gray zone for a while. This could definitely be some kind of commitment. I'm going to say, like, it could also just be reaching a decision about your relationships. It also could be a platonic relationship, a business relationship, or you and like something that you have like a contractual agreement with, but you're really going to have an awareness of like whether you want to sort of take this long term or not. So kind of classic relationship stuff coming up for you with this full moon in Libra. There might be something at home or something with home and family that you were having to deal with with this energy too, because Mars in Cancer, it's moving out of your fourth house finally. But there could be some like relationship stuff that you're having to contend with family, or just some like home stuff that's going on, like home improvement projects or something that's like connected to this full moon in Libra in some way, just because that full moon is squaring Mars. Also, I do kind of want to point out too, like, listen to your body and listen to what your feelings are saying right now too, because Chiron is connected to this full moon. It's going to be conjunct the sun in your first house. Notice if you have any inflammation or anything that shows up in your body that might be connected to like an emotional thing, right? Like if you're prone to throat things and there's some issue around like, using your voice, something like that, just because the sun will be conjunct Chiron in your first house of body. So it's almost like whatever emotional like things that you need to process may show up literally in your physical body itself, but that's just like another layer I kind of wanted to mention with that. And remember, Venus is going direct like the very next day. So Venus, the planet that rules over relationships specifically in your chart. And Venus also rules money as well for you, as so you're going to be getting a lot more clarity on those when Venus goes direct around this full moon and into the next day. And again, clarification on relationship commitments for you as well. And also Venus is going direct in the 12th house. This could be clarity through meditation, clarity through having like alone time and rest, clarity through your dreams, even too. Or it could be about like clear, like resolution around maybe like a relationship that's kind of been going on like in private or in secret or something connected to that as well. We do have Mars going direct, or excuse me, not going direct. Mars has been direct for a while, thank God. Mars is going into Leo, woo, and which will be in your fifth house. So I think you're gonna maybe have some more energy and some more motivation just for hobbies, recreation, play, romance. Or this could also be maybe a little bit of heat or conflict around those things, as Mars is kind of prone to do. You're gonna be revisiting some topics because Mars was here already in November and December. So during Mars's journey through here, it could also be like stuff with like children, or like maybe your children are more argumentative, or there's more action taken around pregnancy, childbirth, and children. But there's more action in this part of your house, or let's say in this part of your chart. And I just kind of feel like spark, like you're getting a spark, or you're kind of getting a fire back here. And that's going to be in Leo the rest of the month. April 27th, we have that full moon in Libra, that full moon in Taurus. No, new moon in Taurus. What the hell am I saying? New moon in Taurus, about 7 degrees. That's going to be in your second house of money. So, there's a new beginning, a new opportunity with your financial life, with what you're worth, with what your values are, with your cash, with your assets. It could be that like we're really committed, or we really have like a set of goal for ourselves to like really push through and like make some money, or to like really kind of reach some financial goals, because we do have that opposition for Mars and Pluto going on at the same time. So there's something maybe with finances that you're feeling very like, I need to push through this, or like I'm having a power struggle, or I'm like really determined to like make it, right? So I'm saying maybe you build some security there, or have like a new opportunity there. But yeah, be aware there is this kind of tense energy playing out. That Mars Pluto opposition, by the way, is playing out in your 11th house of friends and goals and hopes and wishes for the future, in your 5th house of fun and romance. I'm gonna say what it feels like to me, and granted, I don't know your life, or exactly kind of what's going on in your chart, but that new moon in Taurus, good for money, but I do feel like there's something tense about it, or you're just feeling like really like I'm very focused on achieving my goals here. So that is what we have for Aries. I'll say one more thing. Venus goes into your sign at the end of the month. And so she's going to be kind of revisiting some topics. Venus going into your sign on April 30th might be a good time to like reinvest in clothing, appearance, things that make you feel beautiful, because Venus is going into your own sign. And she's going into your first house, which is like appearance and body. So that's something to consider because Venus will be in Aries the rest of the month. So we're gonna look at Taurus next. So Taurus, beautiful baby Taurus, Taurus rising. The first thing is that Mercury is going direct in your 11th house on April 7th. Maybe some clarity, some kind of movement forward, especially when it's sort of concerning friends, groups that you belong to, and also your hopes, wishes, and goals for the future. So maybe there's some more clarification there. Same with Venus going direct here a couple days later on the 13th. So on April 12th, we have our full moon of the month, which is happening about 23 degrees of Libra, and that is happening for you in your 6th house. So there could be something completing, something ending, something kind of going on, some event in your 6th house. So this could be that your work is changing, you're getting some kind of new job, or there's a coworker that's leaving, or some kind of work relationship thing is changing because there's so much connected to Venus. This could be about your relationships at work, coworkers, bosses, people that work for you, that kind of thing. There's something about that maybe work environment that might be changing. This also could be about like a health thing, how you take care of your body, health, exercise, what foods you're sort of putting in, anything kind of health routine or like health and health routine sort of oriented. There's something maybe completing here or something like some kind of fulfillment happening. I'm going to say there's maybe, because the sun will be conjunct Chiron in your 12th house during this full moon, pay attention to hits from your intuition regarding like things that you need to heal from or things that you have healed from, like wounding, trauma, but it's like happening kind of in your subconscious. There's some information coming in around that. With this full moon in Libra, that also means that we have Venus going direct in Pisces. And again, I think that there's like clarification on your commitments, like what you're wanting to commit to, especially regarding friends, regarding colleagues, regarding people in your social circle, regarding relationships with like the groups that you're in, and also looking at like what your goals and wishes and hopes for the future, like what your fucking goals are, like getting more clarification around those things that feel long term, that they're going to be taking time. But yeah, I'm saying work, health stuff, and also the 11th house social friend goals stuff that I mentioned. This full moon is also squaring Mars in your 3rd house. I think that, your daily ritual, daily routine space may be a little bit irritated the past couple months, or maybe you've been having a lot to say. Maybe your tongue is a bit sharper than usual because Mars has been in your sort of communication space since January. So this full moon does square Mars. It could just be that like we're having to sort of work out routine stuff, that we're working out our commute, we're working out just some kind of bumps as far as our daily routine, as far as our work stuff goes. I am going to say also with this full moon, it's sort of like say what you need to say and get the thing off of your chest, but maybe try to do it in a way that doesn't hurt someone's feelings, or tries to avoid doing that in excess, because there's some Mars stuff going on, which is about asserting yourself, but it's like, I would just try to do it as peacefully as you can. Not to be cryptic or anything, but it's what it is. April 18th, Mars goes into Leo. It's going to go into, it's going to be revisiting your 4th house. It finally gets out of godforsaken Cancer and gets into Leo. So a lot more energy just in general, but a lot more energy for you concerning home matters. This suggests action, taking action, motivation, maybe a little bit of irritation connected to your home. So this looks like, over like the next like 2-ish months or so, however long Mars is in Leo for. This is suggesting that we are taking action regarding home things, home improvement, hammering shit on the wall. Or that we are, like getting ready to move and like we're moving stuff around home, or there's just a lot happening connected to the family or connected to property and real estate. So that is going to be happening for you the next couple months. I forgot how long. Let's look. Yeah, about exactly 2 months, until June 18th is how long Mars is in Leo. Oh, what is next for you? We have this full moon in we have the full moon in Taurus, so it's going to be in your sign. So, you're going to be the kind of main character during this full moon. I'm going to say there might be some tension kind of happening regarding career, boss, authority figure, and things maybe going on at home, possibly, or something connected to home. Some kind of conflict between the two. This is a tense full moon, or excuse me, this is a tense new moon. This does feel like, I'm pushing ahead. I'm obsessed with a single-minded goal. I'm going to push through like whatever obstacle. And just kind of obsessions kind of are around this new moon. And this could be around career and home things for you. However, at the same time, this is a beautiful reset for you. New moons are always kind of a reset period, a new cycle, like a new seed that we're planting. And the moon really likes to be in Taurus. This is a really good time to reset things connected to your personal life and your physical body. This is like, I'm going to treat myself to a nice lunch. I'm going to get my nails done. I'm going to get a facial. I'm going to just really kind of treat myself, and I think have a little luxury around this new moon for you. Or things connected to clothing and appearance. It's really kind of like a beautiful new chapter for you this year, whatever you have that Taurus moon. If you're a Taurus rising, it's a really kind of gorgeous chapter for that. And this moon is ruled by Venus very much in her glory in Pisces. So I think you're really, really aware around this new moon of like what commitments you really feel like are worth it, what relationships are worth it to you, especially things connected actually to friends in social groups and different organizations that you are a part of, because this Venus and Pisces Saturn thing happens in your 11th house of friends and groups, like I mentioned before. So really having like a strong awareness of that. But really, being able to indulge in pleasure and getting together with people. I would say maybe try to socialize under this new moon if you can. Last thing we're going to talk about would be, just briefly, is Venus going into Aries. So Venus leaves Pisces on April 30th. She'll be in Aries until mid-June. I think June 6th. So Venus will be in your 12th house. Again, there's kind of like a Venus sort of slips back into your hidden 12th house. This is more relationships that occur in private. This is more like, this is about like the beauty of rest and retreat and, like your healing journey and like that kind of stuff. It's revisiting where Venus was when she was retrograde. So maybe having some clarity around things connected to that. But I'm going to say the clarity and the beauty is going to come through like, went for a hike in nature. I spent some time alone. It's like during those kinds of things is where you're going to feel that sort of Venus kind of beauty. So, all right, Gemini rising. Let's talk about you next. So, what are we talking about? Okay, Mercury, it's stationing direct in Pisces on April 7th. It is stationing with Venus in your 10th house of career. A lot of career clarity, I'm going to say, coming in for you this month. With both planets stationing direct, especially with giving Mercury some time, I think, to get clear, kind of waiting for that, just really clear-headed, energy around April. I think it was 16th. No, it was 19th. So kind of giving that some time, but it's going forward. It's moving forward. We're kind of feeling like the road ahead is starting to feel very clear, especially when connected to career goals, authority figures, our career, our professional and public like reputation. And just the reason I mentioned Mercury so significantly because that is your ruling planet. So Mercury, that planet of communication and messages, kind of seeing what it's doing is really important. But I would really kind of give it till like the 19th before you're fully out of the woods, out of this retrograde kind of woods, just because it's going to be connected to Neptune, which can be a confusing energy. But when we get to April 12th, we have that full moon in Libra. First of all, that full moon is going to be occurring in your 5th house. So there could be culmination, completion connected to children, your children in your life, things connected to pregnancy or childbirth. It could be a creative project coming to fruition. Perhaps you're feeling more inspired creatively, finally, or something connected to hobbies and recreation and things that bring you pleasure. It could also bring something connected to a romantic relationship. And there is this feeling of Venus feeling clarity on her relationship commitments during this full moon too, because Venus is going direct. And when she goes direct, she'll be conjunct Saturn, that planet of like long-term commitments. So you're going to really be knowing who is worth it and what is worth it in your life. What is worth it professionally, as well as like what brings your joy and what expands your heart. These are all kind of 5th house things where that full moon is taking place for you. Venus is also going to, the full moon is also going to be square Mars. There could just be something around like having to deal with like a financial thing, or like where you're spending your money, or maybe there's a little bit of tension there, or just like having to take care of something connected to cash, money, finances. I'm also going to say too, there is this thing with Chiron, this full moon, where the sun will be exactly conjunct Chiron. So really aware of like your wounds, where you've been healing from, that kind of thing. And that's going to be connected to 11th house things for you, connected to friends, groups, group identity, how you fit in, as well as your goals and hopes and wishes for the future. There's something emotional about those things under this full moon. Okay. And so next day, Venus goes direct. We talked about that. It's going direct in your 10th house. So you've had a big revising period with career goals. You're going to be finally getting some clarity this month, and kind of where you're going with that. So April 18th, Mars is going into Leo. It finally leaves your 2nd house. Mars has been in your 2nd house since January. Mars tends to kind of burn a hole in our pocket when it moves through our money houses. It could be like we're trying to make as much money as possible. We're also spending a lot. Or just some I cannot talk, maybe some stress connected to money topics for you. Mars moves into your 3rd house. It's going to be there for about 2 months. Mars is action, energy, and motivation. Mars moving through your 3rd house. The 3rd house represents communication, represents kind of daily routine matters, correspondences, and commute, as well as things connected to learning and studying, certifications and courses, and like neighbors, like your local community. So I'm going to say if you're any kind of teacher, this is a good time to write or teach or learn new things. Mars going into your 3rd house also can mean to like your tongue is just sharper. You're going to be saying more what's on your mind than not. And also things connected to like this energy is sort of like, I'm going to listen to a podcast, 3rd house, while I clean the shit out of my house is kind of maybe how I would use this energy. Or I'm going to finally sit down and write the thing that I've always wanted to write. I'm going to, and I'm going to say because there is some intensity between your 3rd and 9th houses, there's maybe some intensity or pressure cooker energy connected to teaching, connected to learning, and anything connected to higher education. You could feel like a push to like learn something with that energy. April 27th, we have that full moon in Taurus. This is a new moon in Taurus. That new moon occurs in your 12th house. There's like, that new moon is more of a private new moon. It's more of like maybe new beginnings connected to your beliefs, different kind of subconscious things. This is a really good time to like, this new moon for you is sort of like, I'm in my bedroom, I'm painting my nails, which is a very like Taurus thing. I'm doing a face mask and getting some like rest and rejuvenation because 12th house is rest. Okay. And at the same time, it can bring in this could kind of prompt maybe some inspiration for you for career things, because it is ruled by Venus, which is still in your 10th house of career. So it could be pretty decent for new beginnings around career as well. This new moon, though, that intensity I talked about in the first part of the video, there's this, this Taurus new moon it does feel like there's like power struggles or really intensely fixating on a goal and like overcoming something. And for you, it's like, there's maybe something happening with like a travel thing, with learning something new, because it's happening in your third and ninth houses. Like there's this pressure here, like a pressure to teach something or pressure to learn something or pressure to travel somewhere, or there's like the weird intense thing happening with those topics. But so even if you don't really resonate with like, I'm not sure what he's talking about, just know around that period of time, it's like there's a desire to socialize and be, to lean into pleasures and aesthetics. But at the same time, there's something really intense kind of happening where I'm like, I'm really I need to hit my step goal this week. I really want to get this thing done. And I think we're just going to feel a little crazy, but hopefully in a constructive way. So April 30th, Venus is going to go into Aries. Venus will be in your 11th house until June 6th. Good time to connect with friends, to network, to connect to your goals and wishes and hopes for the future. And just kind of just like pleasurable experiences through our like social network is sort of what that is talking about. And also kind of revisiting some themes when Venus went retrograde. So let's talk about Cancer rising next. Cancer rising, what do we have for you? Finally, oh my God, this month, Mars is moving out of Cancer. Yay for you. That I'm sure has not been fun. And we also have a new moon. We have that new moon in Taurus to talk about in your 11th house of friends, as well as that full moon in Libra in your 4th house of home and family. So let's get to it. First thing we're going to talk about is that full moon / Venus direct. So that full moon is going to be occurring in your 4th house. By the way, we're just coming off that solar eclipse that we had in your sign, closing out that 2-year cycle of big beginnings and endings and changes and fluctuations in your career and home sector in your chart. So how you feeling, Cancer? Have you been going through a lot? I bet you have, but you probably have grown a lot too. But maybe getting, I guess, sense of clarity and kind of beginnings and where you're going in your career, hopefully coming in with this energy. So this full moon in Libra is taking place on the 12th. Hold on, let me back up a little bit. And so that can definitely bring up some kind of completion or some kind of event regarding where you are living, things connected to your family members or your parents, things connected to home themes for you. So this could definitely be like clarity around where I'm living, move, something going on with parents, some kind of home project or something. This does feel like a very personally active full moon for you because it will be square Mars in your 1st house. There's something where like I'm taking action on something or having to defend or assert myself here. Under a Libra full moon, it's like, yes, there's like this peacemaker energy, but there's also this need for balance and justice, and balancing the scales. And to balance the scales, we're going to be doing something with Mars. So asserting ourselves, even though it may feel uncomfortable or a bit emotional. And also just realizing how much you've gone through over the past couple months and years, I would say, with these eclipses, with Mars and Cancer. This full moon is ruled by Venus, who is going direct A, and B, she's stationing direct conjunct Saturn. So around this full moon, it's kind of giving me the feeling of she's really clarifying your long-term relationships and commitments and like really what is worth it to you, especially connected to higher education, spirituality, publishing and media things, your beliefs, as well as anything connected to travel. There's a lot of activity in that part of your chart right now with all this Pisces stuff happening. So it could be that like, yes, I do want to go after my master's degree, or yes, I do really want to take this certification program, or I really want to commit to this long trip, or something connected to media or social media. you're just going to have like awareness of those like commitments and like kind of what is worth it to you around this full moon in Libra. So Venus will be stationing direct the very next day. And just this kind of feeling of like starting to really move forward with shit, really starting to take place with Venus going direct. She's done revising, she's done reviewing. It's like, I've done all that. I have emerged from the underworld. It's time to go back to kind of revisit the places where she was retrograde with this sort of new sense of clarity. I also wanted to mention on this full moon is going to be opposite Chiron, the wounded healer. Noticing that maybe you're healing from something connected to career, that you're licking your wounds, or that you're having to sort of burn something off or cauterize something in order for you to heal. And it's all connected to career, your career goals. There's something extra emotional about that part of your chart around this full moon. So April 18th, Mars finally leaves your first house of identity and appearance and physical body and personal energy and goes into your second house of money. However, Mars is in much better shape in Leo than it was in Cancer, really able to help you tackle your financial goals to make more money. It's very motivated to take action in Leo. There is some pressure, I'm going to say, concerning your finances, really kind of in like the middle toward the end of the month. Maybe pressure to achieve or to make money, or that you have to spend money on something, and there's some tension around it because Mars will oppose Pluto, and that is going to perfect the day before the full moon on the 27th, or it's the new moon on the 27th, which is the new moon in Taurus. And so we have a new moon in Taurus here. This is like, a nice fresh beginning, a reset kind of vibe. And this new moon takes place in your 11th house. I'm going to say maybe there's an opportunity that's connected to your social network, connected to friends. There's a beginning with friends and a reset regarding friends and social networks and colleagues and organizations that you belong to, maybe networking opportunity. But it could be something that can maybe help with finances, or that's connected to a financial thing for you. Because this new moon is square that Mars-Pluto opposition. There's something very tense around this full moon, or there's very much this energy of like, I'm single-mindedly pursuing a goal. There's a power struggle here. There's like, I'm obsessed with like accomplishing something. So there's that going on in your financial sector. There's a new beginning happening in your social relationships, as well as your goals and hopes and wishes for the future. And like, this is also a time to just kind of indulge in luxuries, like, to bring in some pleasant socialization, maybe with friends, or, and because this new moon is being ruled by a Venus in Pisces, this is a good time to maybe have food that's from other cultures, or connect more deeply to your beliefs or your spirituality somehow, or there's beauty to be found in like learning something new. But in general, it's like relationships. There's something with relationships that is very positive with your social relationships and like associates and friends. But there is a tension going on in finances for you around the time. Maybe not bad, like I'm saying probably not bad, but definitely a feeling of like, I need to accomplish something with finances around that time. Lastly, we have April. I wanted to mention Mars will be in your second house for about 2 months. So Mars and Leo from April 18th to around June. All right, Cancer rising, for I was rudely cut off by my phone dying, and it's actually the next day. But through the magic of editing, I look relatively the same. Anyway, so Mars is in Leo for you from 18th until about June 18th, from April 18th to about June 18th. So that means the planet of action, energy, motivation, and also inflammation and irritation is in your second house of money from then. So you might be feeling just more of a drive to make more money. There might be stuff around like budget and spending and cash and assets. That's going to be where a lot of you are just where you feel like you maybe have to assert yourself or just put some energy into. But the good thing is that Mars will be functioning better, basically. So if you're needing to make money, you will be able to do so. You just might feel like there's more pressure for you to do so, or there's action you have to take regarding your cash and movable assets. And then finally, April 30th, we have Venus moving back into Aries, kind of retracing her steps through her direct journey through Aries this time. And she'll be moving through your ninth house. Again, you might be sort of prompted to explore. Hold on, I'm on the wrong side. Venus will be moving into your 10th house when she's in Aries. So she's retracing her steps through your career sector. This would be time for you to maybe magnetize some opportunities related to career, to promote yourself, to put yourself out there publicly, professionally, having like things having to do with your reputation. And definitely if you're like needing a new job or you're wanting to expand career in some way, since Venus has now kind of figured out your values with career, this would be a good time to be putting yourself out there. It's like before you were kind of reconsidering things during that Venus retrograde in your career sector, but now that it's direct, you're going to have a lot more clarity. And Venus will be there until about June 6th, and then she'll go into Taurus. So let's talk about Leo. Come on, Leo. All right. Okay. We are going to move my little chart back to about this first full moon. Oh, all right. So Leo, let's talk. First of all, let's talk. So Mercury is going to be stationing. Mercury and Venus are stationing direct, and they're going to be stationing direct in your 8th house. Mercury stationing direct on the 8th, but remember, like I said, it needs more time for Mercury, I think, to get some clarity. But still, direct is better than nothing. And then Venus will be stationing direct on April 13th, just after this Libra full moon. So let's dive into this Libra full moon. And I'll talk about these planets going direct in your 8th house and kind of what that means as we sort of tie this in here. So let's see, where the hell are we at? So first of all, this full moon does land in your 3rd house. We just had a solar eclipse / new moon in your 9th house, kind of completing this cycle that you've had going on between your 9th and 3rd houses. Because remember, we've had eclipses in your 3rd and 9th houses since April 2023. Beginnings, changes, endings, expansion, decrease, and the topics connected to higher education, travel, spirituality, beliefs, media and broadcasting, social media, and legal things. So you could have been you may have been expanding your belief system. You may have been very focused on spirituality and divination, things like astrology. It's a very kind of 9th house matter. Things connected to travel or education, or any of the other things that I mentioned. So there was maybe some kind of beginning or ending or clarifying of these topics of this recent solar eclipse that we had on the 29th of March. With this full moon that we're having in your 3rd house, I got to think about this for a second. So this is a full moon that essentially indicates the Venus going direct, because this is a full moon in Libra. Libra rules Venus. So first I'm going to actually look at Venus here. So Venus is stationing direct the day after Mercury has just stationed direct. There's some clarity regarding like financial things, how your money is tied up with other people, loans, investments, insurance, inheritance, credit cards, grants, student aid. This is all kind of 8th house money. And also just the intimacies, or like the intricacies of intimate relationships, like the trust and intimacy and stuff that kind of goes along with that, as well as some like emotional, it can be like kind of very like emotional stuff. You might just be getting more clarity on those things, but the energy and money and time that we share with others, and if you are like self-employed, this is also your client's money as well. There's, I think, more clarity on these things, and especially with Venus going direct here, there's going to be an ability to attract this kind of support, because 8th house can also be other people's energy backing money and support. So like if you ever have done like a Kickstarter that's an eighth house thing. Like fundraising is a very kind of eighth house kind of venture. And with Venus stationing direct here, Venus is, she's stationing direct conjunct Saturn, the planet of commitment and long-term things. So Venus is going to be you're going to be very aware of your long-term commitments regarding, especially like money stuff. You know, like this could be as mundane as like, I'm sick of this insurance policy I've had for 10 years. I'm going to go with like a better rate with someone else. Or this could be signaling like, this would be now, might be a better time to like refinance something and get like a better interest rate, or just kind of looking at like your long-term financial commitments. Like it could also be like really kind of getting clarity on like how much you're contributing to bills versus like a partner, and like looking at that kind of thing. But it's like money and relationships and how they kind of intersect is where we're getting this clarity here. And also just Venus getting clarity and really kind of knowing about what to invest in relationships in general. So that's happening for you. So this full moon in the third house, this could be a conversation or correspondence that we're having that's important. Because sometimes third house matters are just like important conversations or correspondences. It also could be something relating to third house is very like daily routines, daily rituals, your daily commute kind of stuff, like very mundane matters. But during like under a full moon, it just becomes more important. It could also be that during these, past several eclipses that we've had in Aries and Libra, perhaps your commute has changed. Perhaps your daily rituals have changed. Perhaps it's more important for you to like, have like a very kind of mindful morning instead of mindlessly like getting up and doing whatever it is that you do. Because third house is sort of like what we're sort of doing kind of every day. So there could be something coming up here about some travel, a change in commute. It could also be news connected to a sibling or a neighbor or just something about your local community. I'm going to say pay attention to, Chiron is connected to this full moon, and Chiron can be, there is something emotional about this full moon. It's like about like what we've learned so far, the wisdom that we've gained, especially things connected to your spirituality, things connected to divinity, or like your beliefs. It's something connected to that. So I can't exactly put this into a concise word, but those are the topics around this full moon. This full moon is also going to be square Mars. There is like a feeling of I need to assert myself or I need to put some energy into something, because this is like a peacemaker kind of relationships full moon, but it is a little bit irritated with that square to Mars. Simply saying like I might have to assert myself in some matter, or I might have to, put some energy into something, even though it's like a little bit uncomfortable. So that is that. And then Venus goes direct. And then we have April 18th. Mars will be going into your sign, and it'll be there for about 2 months. This is, I think, mostly a net positive. Mars going into Leo means that it's just functioning a lot better. Mars is supposed to assert, it's about motivation and action. And in Cancer, it's motivation. Really, it's kind of fluctuating. It can be more of an emotional kind of energy. Mars going into your sign, I would want, first of all, you're more likely to assert yourself to take action. You feel like you have like the planet of fire, literally in your first house of self and appearance and body. Oop, that's my kitty. Kitty. Well, of course, she comes in during Mars and Leo, a sign that rules cats. So, because it is a lion, she's my little lion. She's screaming at me for treats right now. Here, come on. Do you want to come up here? Come on. Okay. Say hi. Say hi, Ina. YouTube. Say hi to Ina. Okay. So, so again, more likely to assert yourself, more likely to like pursue your goals, more likely to say something if someone crosses you, like that kind of thing. And it may just feel like you're getting kind of your mojo back. I will say if you have a day chart, if you were born during the daytime, Mars tends to be a little bit more problematic and a little bit more emphasis on the inflammation part. So just kind of just don't push your physical body beyond its limits. Pay attention to how you're feeling, because Mars can be about like, you would just want to take a little extra care of yourself because, Mars being in your first house might just mean that you're feeling a little irritated sometimes or a little inflamed, essentially. But during the next 2 months, I can really see you just like, okay, it's time to get out of your way. Like it's time to kick some ass because Mars in Cancer was in your 12th house. And that can just be about like, that tends to kind of kick up like some fears and unconscious things because Mars, the planet of inflammation and irritation, is going through your 12th house of subconscious spirituality beliefs. So it can certainly, if you just felt like vaguely anxious, that can certainly be a Mars going through your 12th thing. I am going to say Mars going through your first house. I think that you have maybe a couple battles that you're going to be facing because because this is going to oppose Pluto in your 7th house of partnership and relationship. It's like your one-on-one relationships, there is at least a tension throughout this time, if not an outright like conflict that you may have with someone or with someone that you feel like has more power or resources than you do. So, and that is so just kind of, that is something to be aware of but I also feel like Mars in Leo is going to help you with the courage needed to do so. It's like there's no backing down from a, there's no backing down from a hard conversation. There's no backing down from, this isn't an overly conciliatory, like, I'm just going to kind of give everything to you. This is like, I'm going to kind of stand up for what I believe in energy. And that I think is going to be especially noticeable around April 26th, April 27th, and we have the new moon in Taurus. So like I mentioned in the first part of the video, this new moon is a mixed bag. So with this new moon, it is going to be squaring this Mars Pluto opposition. So it's going to be, so this actually would be a T-square because so it's really going to kind of highlight this feeling around this new moon around intensity, power struggles, single-minded obsession of like pursuing a goal, or straight up in your case, I am thinking some tension in your relationships. And this is not to say like, I do not want to put this information out there to scare you or something like that, but it's just to give you some knowledge that like, hey, relationships do feel a little bit tense during this period of time. And if there's any sort of outstanding, I know a Leo rising right now that is going to be going through a custody battle like during this time period. And I'm like, hello, I can see that right now, So, and I think with this new moon, it's about like what is fair and what is equitable. We have 2 lunations in April that are really about the equality of relationships and like balance because they're both ruled by Venus. So with this new moon in Taurus, there is going to be some emphasis of like, hey, are these relationships worth it? Like kind of looking at our long-term commitments. Beyond this sort of intensity in our one-on-one relationships, however, this is a pretty good new moon. I mean, a new moon in Taurus is always going to be pretty pleasant, I think, depending on the astrology around it, of course. And that's because the moon is exalted in Taurus. She's able to nurture. She's able to bring kind of some softness and some comfort in Taurus. And we'll all really focus on earthly pleasures and connecting with each other and, making our bodies feel good. It's a good new moon to establish practices that make you feel more secure, that give you more material security. And this new moon is falling in your 10th house of career as well. So this could be a time to start new beginnings or to have some sort of new reset or new beginnings or bring some opportunity in your career sector or anything connected to your public and professional reputation or your career goals. You could just be really feeling, instead of like a conflict here, you could just be extremely driven to succeed in your career right now. And it's sort of like, it's kind of giving me the feeling of like, I've always been too shy to ask this person I know for an opportunity, but under this new moon, I'm just going to do it. And I get over my fear and just do it. This person with like a lot of power that I know, for example. And also because it is ruled by an exalted Venus, I think that this could be, just a really good time for just enjoying earthly pleasures, eating, drinking, sex, art, pleasure, food, connecting with one another. It does seem to be a pretty good new moon for all of that. So, April 30th, we have Venus going into Aries. She's retracing her steps where she was when she went retrograde initially, and she's going back into Aries. So she's going to be going back into your ninth house. So things connected to higher education, your spirituality, and travel, anything connected to media, publishing, and broadcasting are all given a boost when Venus goes through here. So if you need to schmooze a little bit with your professor because your grade is sucking, this is a good transit to do it. Like this could also, on a deeper level, Venus has a lot more clarity now going back through Aries, because we were deciding maybe, is this higher education path for me? Is this spirituality for me? Is this travel for me? Is this ninth house matter that I stated for me, or is this something that I want to continue with? Now Venus has a lot more clarity, so she's able to sort of attract what she needs, kind of going through your ninth house, and she's going to be in your ninth house until about June 6th. So that is what we have for Leo. So we're going to do Virgo next. Oh, let's see, Virgo. Okay, Virgo. So we have a full moon in Libra that is ruled by a stationing direct Venus in Pisces. So first of all, let's talk about Venus going direct. So Mercury will be going direct will be going direct a few days before, but remember, like I said, it doesn't really regain the exact clarity in order for it to be functioning its most optimal until about the 19th. But still, direct is still good. And it's going direct in your seventh house of partnership and relationships. So you really had, I think, really some reconsiderations, some clarity to be found on your general relationships. So whether that is marriage partnership, romantic partnership, platonic and business partnership. And I also see the seventh house sometimes as like relationship to like my job or work or this thing that I am like attached to. It doesn't just have to be a person, but it's like whatever you are committed to in your partnership. So if you are in partnership with like an employer, for example, I do see it as that as well. So Venus will be stationing direct here. And she's going to be, she's really in her power because she's in Pisces. She's really able to attract what she needs, to smooth things over. She's really able to see, I think, relationships with a lot of clarity right now. And especially things that she wants to commit to long-term over time, because she's stationing conjunct Saturn. So Saturn is like our long-term commitments. And, so it's like she is deciding what you're going to be deciding what you are in for the long haul, like making, I think, important long-term decisions around this full moon, essentially. It's like, I have decided whether this relationship is worth it or not, is kind of what it is sort of giving me here. So we have that going on because Venus will be stationing the day after this full moon. And then the full moon itself will be happening in your second house of money. So your earned income, how you make your money, your cash, your movable assets. You've been having a lot going on in your eighth house of like inheritance, retirement, investments, loans, since April 2023, actually. And we just had an eclipse here 2 weeks on March 29th, kind of completing out a cycle here. So there's something, there's something about your actual cash and movable assets and money and how you make your money that you're making a decision on. It could be a completion ending, just sort of turning of a chapter, news awareness, something connected to that. There's something really interesting, I think, happening spiritually, though, in your eighth house of other people's money, because Chiron is involved here. This is a more emotional full moon that I think meets the eye, because Chiron, the wounded healer, will be conjunct the sun at that point. So we're going to be very aware of our things that we're still healing from, or that we've healed from, or our wounds or something like that. Like I get so annoyed at myself when I'm like, healing wounds. Oh my God. Because I'm just not that kind of astrologer, but I think I am sometimes. So this full moon is also going to be square Mars. So taking an action and like in asserting yourself, like in a way that brings more balance and fairness and justice, but might feel a little uncomfortable is part of this energy. And it might be with like a friend or your colleagues or groups that you're a part of, or like an organization that you're part of. It could be like a separation, or it could be having to assert yourself. I will say it maybe feels a little uncomfortable since the moon in Libra doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and Mars in Cancer is also afraid of hurting people's feelings too. But it does feel like you're going to have to assert yourself somewhat as well. So after that, we have Mars going into Leo on the 18th. So Mars will be going into Leo on April 18th. It leaves Cancer, which is good for all of us, thank God. Mars just does better in the sign of Leo. Mars going through your 12th house. I'm gonna say like Mars initially went direct, I believe, in December or the end of November. I can't remember. I'm sure this is very exciting for those of you watching at home. You're like, oh, Alice is looking through his ephemeris. How amazing. What an amazing astrologer. Wow. Mars first entered the sign of Leo in November 2024 and went retrograde on December 5th. So it's going into the sign where I feel like a lot of Virgo risings felt an intense need to rest and retreat and heal, because Mars went into your 12th house of rest and retreat and like spirit and like mental health and things like that. So it's coming back to where it initially went retrograde. So you might be, it's like, I think that there is like another kind of phase of like, yeah, like rest and healing, but not as intensely because it is direct, essentially. It might just be like you're working on a project in the background or working on something in secret, would also be an expression of this energy, or just a need for like a little bit more of a little bit more alone time. But it feels like whatever you're working on, it may not be front and center. This is also a time to kind of maybe that you'll be kind of confronting some subconscious beliefs or things that have been sort of hidden from you. You're sort of ready to kind of uproot and kind of deal with like a little bit more. But this is a much more empowered Mars than it was before. And that's going to be in your 12th house for about 2 months. So next we have a new moon in Taurus on April 27th. This also kind of brings more of the Mars and Leo stuff into light as well. So this new moon in Taurus does fall in your 9th house of higher education, of spirituality and travel, broadcasting and media. This could be a time when like there's like a reset, a new opportunity, a new beginning connected to education and spirituality or travel, or if you do anything with like publishing or writing or putting anything like online with media, it could be anything associated with that. Also, anything connected to your beliefs and personal philosophies, you're going to be just more in touch with those things at this time. You could also be planning travel or something connected to that. There is like a really pleasant side to this new moon, and there's a really intense side to it. So I'll talk about the pleasant part first. This new moon is first of all, the moon likes to be in Taurus. She's exalted in Taurus. So a new moon in Taurus is always going to have some positive side to it because the moon is able to nurture, to make us feel good, to, like with the new moon in Taurus, there's definitely a focus on like earthly pleasures and like sensuality, food, art, eating, music, sex, that's all that stuff is very Taurus, or creating more security for us as well. And because she's ruled by a Venus, like by an exalted Venus in Pisces, I think this is an excellent new moon for you to just kind of connect in your various relationships, to enjoy your relationships, to enjoy quality time with your partner or with friends or whoever in your relationships, and just a good time to connect to artistic beauty kind of things as well. This new moon is going to be square a Mars-Pluto opposition. So there's like a tension in your life around this time, around maybe finding some balance with health things, like working on a health thing, like really intensely. It kind of feels like I've had this issue forever. I'm ready to fucking tackle it. I'm really sick of these allergies. I'm really sick of this weight I'm carrying around or whatever it is. And like, it's like, there's like feeling of like putting a lot of focus into health things, or it could be work. It could also be like intensity kind of going on in the workplace. Like, I really want to find a new job, or maybe having like a little bit of a power struggle with someone I work with or with a work situation. Or it could be that I'm putting single-minded intensity session, maybe some power struggles kind of going on between like work things for you. How you work, where you work, how you do it, who you work with, that kind of thing. There is some kind of intensity or power struggle going on with either like work or health things. There could also be an animal thing or like a pet thing, but I think for most people it's going to be a work and or health thing that we're just kind of working to overcome, or do we have some sort of single-minded obsession kind of energy around with this new moon? It's almost like a very bullheaded kind of new moon, you know? So we also have, finally, at the end of the month, April 30th, we have Venus going into your 8th house. And Venus will be there until about June 6th. So Venus, she went retrograde initially in your 8th house. The 8th house is investments, loans, retirements, credit cards, other people's money that you are tied up with. Could be partner's money as well, like your partner's retirement account or your partner's money. If you're self-employed, it's your client's money. That's also the intricacies of like various relationships and stuff too. So Venus has a lot more clarity as she goes into Aries, generally speaking. So this could be good for refinancing, for like getting a better interest rate on things, for looking at your retirement and loan investment accounts, for attracting money that you don't necessarily earn, just having more ease around those kinds of topics for the next several weeks. So next we have Libra rising, but for that I need a drink of water. Okay, Libra rising. So let's kind of jump right into this full moon in Libra happening on April 12th? Hold on. I forget when the full moon is happening. I think I'm on the right day. Okay, great. April 12th. Full moon's on April 12th. Venus stations direct on April 13th. This full moon is in your sign, and it's ruled over by your ruling planet as well, which is Venus. So very important full moon for Libra risings and Libras out there. So first of all, let's discuss Venus, the Venus of it all. So Venus has been retrograde for about 40 days. She always goes retrograde for 40 days and 40 nights. And she's emerging from the underworld. She's emerging as a bright, beautiful morning star around this time. She has a lot more clarity, and she's done a lot of healing on herself. And the things that she's been dealing with have been relationships, and also has been health and work things for you as well. And also just you personally in general. Like Venus retrograde for you is a time, your personal kind of underworld journey of like, we're going to go and face some things, and we're going to clear some things out and get more clarity on things. And that does, and that is like also like about your personal energy. Venus also rules money stuff for you too, by the way, because she rules your 8th house. She's stationing direct right basically on this full moon in your 6th house of health and work. You have a lot more clarity on what you want to do, who you want to do it with, what kind of work routines you want to have, how you want to take care of yourself. Maybe you have clarity on health issues. It might be a better time to kind of tackle some health things as well. And also Venus is, when she stations direct, right, it's really like the day after this full moon, but basically right on this full moon. It's very loud. Venus is going to be conjunct Saturn. And this energy is kind of giving like Venus is going to know what she's wanting to commit to. Especially regarding like relationships at work, or relationships with your work, or with job, or something like that, or just like relationships in general. And you're going to have a sense of like your long-term commitments, and like what is really worth it to you, and what you're willing to let go of. But especially, again, just stationing direct in the 6th house is health and work. Also can be pet stuff too. By the way, a couple of days before, Mercury does go direct as well, in Pisces in your 6th house. Again, more clarity on the health and work stuff. But like I said, Mercury doesn't really regain, I think, a lot of optimal clarity until it kind of gets to after the second half of the month. When it gets past Neptune and gets into your 7th house of relationships is when Mercury is going to be able to do its job more effectively. But going back to this full moon, so the full moon itself, I really feel you as having a lot of clarity. There's this like a personal completion or letting go of something, maybe an ending or like a feeling of a new chapter, because this is a full moon in your sign. And I just think it's extra special because Venus is going direct, it's going direct in Pisces. You have a lot of power right now. You have a lot of clarity. And this does feel like just some major kind of chapter. It just really feels like a major refresh, a major new start, a major letting go of things you don't need anymore. Also, this is the first this is the first lunation in Libra that's not an eclipse since 2023. Oh, lucky you. I will say you just had a solar eclipse in Aries about 2 weeks prior on the 29th of March. That was the final eclipse in Aries and Libra in your 7th house of partnership. So there was maybe like a beginning or an ending or just a closing out of something in your partnerships. You maybe had a lot of developments in your relationship since 2023. And there's also something very healing or something spiritually about wounds and healing and what we're healing from and what we need to heal from going forward, because this full moon is going to be connected to Chiron. And again, this is about relationships for you, a lot of relationship stuff. But at the same time, it's like with this full moon being in your sign in the first house of body and physical appearance and your vitality and physical energy, it's like, don't forget about yourself and like how much you maybe have cleared out, I think, especially during this Venus retrograde. This really kind of giving me like, we've released a lot of bullshit and this is time to kind of look at life with like fresh new eyes. So that's what I see for you. Also, last thing, it is square Mars in your career sector. This could be a feeling of like having to assert yourself or, there's like a need to speak up about something that would bring more fairness and balance and justice, maybe connected to career or authority figures, or something connected to your public and professional reputation. And it might be something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable because Libra doesn't like to hurt people's feelings typically, and neither does Mars in Cancer. Typically, I should say. So there maybe is a little something irritating around this full moon, or just like a feeling of like, I have to do something with career right now. So that is that. Congrats. Happy Venus direct. Happy full moon to you. April 18th, we have Mars going into Leo. And that's definitely an improvement for Mars's condition. We can all be happy that Mars is out of Cancer. You maybe spend a lot of time, a lot of activity, a push forward, or, and even just some inflammation and just feeling a maybe stalled energy in career over the past few months of like really pushing forward, but feeling like it's going slow. Now Mars kind of gets to its full power. Mars does well, I think, in the sign of Leo. Mars is going to be moving into your 11th house of groups, friends, colleagues, organizations that you are part of, group identities, and also your goals, wishes, and hopes for the future. We could simply become more active in these spaces. There's more energy and time sort of spent like in these groups or being a part of these groups. At the same time, I think there is the occasional tussle or perhaps conflict or like, carving out your own kind of individual identity within these sort of group spaces or within these sort of social spaces, because Mars's principle is to separate. The main thing I kind of want to discuss with Mars and Leo is actually going to be around this new moon in Taurus happening on the 27th. So Mars and Leo will be opposing Pluto, and that's going to peak, I think, exactly like about like the day before this Taurus new moon on April 26th. So there's a feeling of single-minded obsession, of intensity and maybe power struggles connected to friends, connected to like romance and like your creative projects. It's like there's like a tension between creative projects and fun and romance with social groups and friends here, or a feeling of like, or something connected to like children and pregnancy, childbirth. there's just something going on between these two very kind of social houses that there is some, I don't know, some intensity, some obsession, or some sort of power kind of control struggle kind of thing going on around this Taurus new moon. It could be around money. Money and resources is very connected to this Taurus new moon for you. There is a lot of really good things happening with this new moon, but there is this like intensity around because this new moon brings some new opportunity or reset or new beginning connected to other people's resources and money. This is crowdfunding, fundraising, credits, loans, investments, or for some of you it might be pretty mundane. It's like, yeah, I got a new insurance policy. That was all that happened. It doesn't have to be that dramatic. But this could be a time when you're like applying for refinancing or applying for a loan or just looking at shuffling your money around. Perhaps there's a new opportunity connected to your partner's finances, or perhaps there's a new opportunity for you if you deal with other people's money frequently, like if you're self-employed, this is your client's money. The moon in Taurus is good at generating security, bringing comfort, and because, the moon is exalted in Taurus. She really loves her Taurus home. It's her special. She's like the special favored guest here. So, and the moon loves to soothe and comfort and she's really able to bring some security with this new moon in Taurus. So you could be thinking about financial security during this new moon in Taurus. This new moon is also being ruled by an exalted Pisces, or by an exalted Venus in Pisces. And again, there could be maybe some opportunities connected to work for you, maybe some opportunities connected to sort of health and service spaces. That maybe are connected to a money situation for you. Or it could just be that like relationships are going well in your work life, possibly too. And I will say just generally on this Taurus new moon, it's like this Taurus new moon would be good for establishing new health routines, establishing new work routines or new work things. In general, but also it's just a good new moon to just indulge in earthly pleasures, to enjoy relationships and connection and art and sex and food and that kind of stuff. Because that's a Taurus new moon, baby, and we have a Venus that's really able to bring that energy forward. But there is this kind of bullheaded intensity obsession kind of happening around this new moon. So April 30th, Venus is going to be moving into Aries until June 6th. So she's going to be back in your partnership sector, but she's going to be back here with a lot more clarity. So this would be a good time to attract new partners or to smooth things over with partners, to collaborate in relationships. And all manner of partnership, Venus will be helping to sort of boost that. Granted, Venus is very feisty, in Aries. Maybe not a bad thing for you. Like it might be a good time to you might have a really kind of clear idea of your identity at this point and who you are and what you bring to the table in relationships, what relationships can offer you and what things are worth it to you. It's going to be a whole different kind of Venus journey for you as Venus moves through your 7th house of partnership until June 6th. So that is Libra. Let's talk about Scorpio. Scorpio, my Scorpio rising children, my babies. So, April 12th, we have a full moon in the sign of Libra. This is being ruled by a Venus that is stationing direct the very next day. We also had a Mercury going direct just a couple days prior in your 5th house of romance, of fun, of recreation, of creative hobbies and children. So some more clarity to this area of your chart, a lot more clarity when Venus stations direct. So if you've been kind of holding off on like dating or getting into, romantic relationships, or you've been feeling like your creative or recreation spaces just aren't hitting the same, it's going to start to shift now. I just want to mention Mercury really quick. Mercury, planet of communication, goes direct on the 7th, but I'm going to say not till around the 19th is it really going to have a lot more clarity for you, because it's going to be in a better sign for it, and you're going to be getting clarity around how you work. Or what your work routines feel like kind of midway through the month. And also clarity on health things as well. But Venus stationing direct is really, I think, the big player here. So not only is she in the sign that she loves to be in, that she has a lot of power in. So Venus going direct here, it's like yeah, this might be a time when you're really going to have a lot more clarity on long-term kind of relationships and your long-term commitments. Being able to attract these things, being able to attract relationships with people that feel like they're equal to you, that like bring something to the table because you know what you're worth now as well. Because Venus in your chart rules your partnership sector. So no matter the sign that Venus goes retrograde in, for you, there's always like a relationship kind of element. And there's always a very sort of deeper psychological element to Venus retrograde as well, because Venus rules your hidden 12th house of like subconscious things and mental health. So it's always a very kind of inward journey, every kind of Venus retrograde for you. Hold on, I gotta shut the damn door. Man, if it's not my cat using the litter box incredibly loudly in the other room, it's also the dog barking across the street. It's like, why are all the animals barking, making noise right now? So, anywho, Venus is going to be stationing directly, stationing conjunct Saturn in Pisces in your 5th house. There could be like a long-term commitment happening here, or you having clarity on your long-term commitments and like which ones are worth it to you, especially in romantic relationships connected to children, or things connected to your values. 5th house can also be pregnancy too, like looking at like, hey, is this the right time to bring, an important thing into the world? That could be thinking about bringing an important project or creative piece into the world, or something that you are giving birth to that's not a human. It could be a human. It could also be like, I feel pregnant with this idea of this thing that I want to bring forth into the world. It could be getting a lot of clarity around that at this time. This full moon in Libra is happening in your 12th house. However, again, this is a relationship sort of focused new full moon. This could be something happening in secret, happening kind of in the background that you're not really ready to share with people. It could also be that you're getting a lot of clarity and clarity, or there's some completion or culmination happening, something psychological, something spiritual, something internal, some sort of realizations or illuminating things that you, or like, it could be even like illuminating like relationship patterns or patterns with yourself that you just haven't seen before. Because 12th house is things that are usually hidden to you, but with a bright, shiny full moon that is ruled by Venus stationing direct in your 5th house, there's something kind of relationship, creative feeling around this full moon. But definitely illuminating something that is hidden to you. What else? This full moon this full moon is it's opposite Chiron. So Chiron's going to be conjunct the sun around this time. Chiron is the wounded healer. It's connected to healing our wounds and wound healing. Every time I talk about Chiron, I'm just sound like some like super new agey love and light astrologer. Like, my God, Chiron and healing, it's in love and light. But Chiron, it shows up a lot. So there is something maybe that you are healing connected to physical health or a work situation connected with this full moon as well that you're just going to be aware of. There is maybe something with this full moon around standing up for what you believe in or asserting yourself in some way, or putting action and energy into 9th house matters like higher education, spirituality, beliefs, and travel. But I'm going to say there's something around a little uncomfortable with this full moon because it is square Mars. So this is a little bit of an irritable full moon. This is a full moon we're going to have to take some action. It could also just be that we're needing to, it's like a physical energy. Not a full moon, not a bad full moon to get laid on, honestly. So as long as it's like a long-term commitment, I'm gonna say, because Mars here, it's like let's get out our frustrations. Anyway, so we have Mars going into Leo on April 18th. Thank God. Mars is your ruling planet, and what Mars is doing in the sky is always really important. So Mars is leaving your 9th house. It's been there since January. It was retrograde for a lot of the time. So really, I think that you have a lot more clarity. I'm using the word clarity so much today. A lot more clarity around your spirituality, your belief system, around teaching things, around travel endeavors, around broadcasting and media endeavors. I'm Scorpio rising, and I worked like hell on my YouTube channel during this 9th house journey. 9th house is like online stuff. But I think it's paying off, But the thing with Mars being in Cancer, Mars is in its fall in Cancer. Our motivation and energy can really fluctuate or be on the lower side with Mars in Cancer. And it's just really kind of a more irritable placement for Mars to be. So Mars moving into your 10th house for the next 2 months. Remember, it went retrograde there initially in December. I think around December 5th or December 6th, it went retrograde after being there for about a month. So you might have been feeling, like, hey, it's time to kind of reevaluate career things. Well, now it's time to take on career things head on. This is a very ambitious place for Mars to be. I think you're going to be feeling like you're wanting to climb the ranks in career, or really kind of want to demolish the competition, or to just really kind of actively work on your career goals. Sometimes this can kind of bump heads with authority figures, or there can be some, a little bit of maybe conflict that can come up with career or work things from time to time. But generally, because you're going to have the confidence, I think it's definitely going to feel a lot better than Mars in Cancer. So there is some kind of crunchy stuff coming up with this aspect around the Taurus new moon. So let's talk about that first. So this new moon is going to be making a T-square with a Mars-Pluto opposition. So around April 26th, the day before, is when Mars will oppose Pluto. And we're going to be kind of building up to that energy most of this month. Or really after April 18th, when Mars goes into Leo. This is kind of giving single-minded obsession with career things, but it's also opposing something with family. There could be some sort of issue with home and family, or this feeling of power struggles, pushing forward. I'm stubbornly committed to career goals, or there's some maybe kind of conflict with where you're living, with property, with real estate, and with family things. I'm not exactly sure how to read this for you exactly. But I'm going to say there could just be some kind of conflict that is sort of coming up like around that, like around these two topics, or just a feeling of like I'm really trying to push ahead, and it's like what I see when I look at this aspect is tunnel vision, essentially. And also sometimes this aspect can be little conflicts turning to big blowups. I do feel like with Venus being in Pisces during this time, that helps mitigate that somewhat. And I kind of just get this intensity, single-minded obsession kind of vibe coming from career, but it also could be like a home and family thing, or perhaps we're having a conflict with a family member or a parent, or like right now, or something developing in a home situation. Just kind of note that. It's probably not going to be as intense as I described it, but those are the various themes that were there's something bubbling under the surface around this new moon. However, there's a lot of positives around this new moon. This is a really beautiful new beginning, I think, in partnership for you. So partnerships, relationships, this is romantic. Yes, certainly. It certainly could be a new beginning in romantic relationships for you, because it's ruled by Venus, a stationed direct Venus in your 5th house of romance and fun. But any relationships, business partnerships, platonic relationships, your roommates, that kind of thing, really bring a lot of pleasure and ease to your various connections. And under a Taurus new moon, the moon likes to be in Taurus. It's comfortable for her. She's able to bring security and comfort and soothe during this new moon. And this is a good time to indulge in earthly pleasures, sex, art, food, going out for a cocktail with your friends, calling up your girls. Like, this is that kind of new moon, especially because it's ruled by Venus in your 5th house of fun and pleasure and creativity. So have some fun on this new moon, indulge yourself. But also, do definitely be aware that there is like a simmering tension underneath the surface. But hey, if you're in a safe relationship, what a great time to, have really good sex under this new moon, because there's a simmering fiery tension kind of underneath it. So April 30th. April 30th, we have Venus in Pisces. Oh, my cat's back. You are insistent today. She has to pay the taxes here on YouTube every time. Where she is. So April 30th, Venus moves into Aries. She has a lot more clarity than she did the first time, because she went retrograde in Aries. Now she's back again, and she's in your 6th house of health and work. So definitely good for new work projects, new work opportunities, making new relationships in work, improving work routines, working the way you want to. This is very independent Venus. She's like, don't tell me what to do. I'm Venus and Aries, bitch. So, working the way that you want to, bringing, but helping to improve relationships with coworkers, maybe new things with health or how you work out or how you take care of yourself as well. And Venus will be here until June 6th. So let's do Sagittarius, and then I'm going to take another break. Let's do Sagittarius. Sagittarius rising. So we have a full moon in Libra on April 12th. And this is ruled by a stationing direct Venus in your 4th house of home and family. So let's see. I'm actually Venus is stationing direct the very next day. This moon is ruled by Venus, and this is really the Venus direct show. She's like, look at me being a diva. This full moon is all about me. So this full moon really announces Venus' sort of direct station. You're going to have a lot more clarity on commitments and relationships, and just things where we want to commit to in family spaces, things connected to property and home, anything connected to home, anything connected to parents. And again, just clarity in relationships with those things. And again, 4th house is also like where we come from, our ancestry, our roots, like private home matters as well. So this could be, if we've been kind of thinking about like, hey, is it time to sell our house? Do we, or if you've just been like hemming and hawing like on something like home renovation or redecorating, it's like you're having a lot more clarity on like where to put that fucking painting that you've been wanting to hang out for like a year. This is kind of, or like, but like it's like something like permanent. Like I really, because like the backsplash in the kitchen, I can't decide what to do. This full moon is like, we're going to know where to put that. We're going to know what color of the wall, what color paint that we're going to paint, sort of. Or it could be something more deeper, like relationships with like family members or something. But Venus, she went retrograde in your 5th house of romance, and she slid back into Pisces to finish and now it's kind of more about home and family stuff. So there's something about that with this full moon in Libra. This full moon is also happening in your 11th house. So there's illumination, completion, like the light bulb kind of goes off, or light bulb moment relating to, it could be like your goals and wishes and hopes for the future, like what you're wanting to really kind of spend your time and focus on. It also could be an event connected to a friend, like a member of your social group, your affiliation with a group or organization that you're part of, or just kind of your social circles in general. There could be some activity there, or just like a big aha moment. And this is the first newer full moon in Libra that's not an eclipse since April 2023. That's pretty cool, because you've had a lot of your social and romance and creative spaces have kind of been going through a lot over the past 2 years. Maybe you changed your group affiliations and your friends and you've let some of those things go. But perhaps you've been spending more time connected to children or childbirth or changes connected into those areas, or with romance relationships, or your creative projects or things that you were giving birth to. We just had an eclipse there March 29th, so 2 weeks before this full moon. There was a completion or ending or beginning taking place to kind of close out a cycle here. And now it's kind of like this kind of grand finale, I think, with this full moon in Libra. This full moon in Libra, it is very connected to relationships and stuff, but also there is something a little uncomfortable about it because you are having to maybe assert yourself or take action, maybe in something connected to finances, or the finances, like where your finances and like relationships kind of intermingle, or there's just simply a little bit of edginess this full moon where you're having to assert yourself, even though it feels like a little bit uncomfortable. And I do want to mention that there is something kind of connected to wounds, healing, what we need to heal. I think connected to your creative life or your romance life, or things connected to the heart or children around this full moon as well, because it's going to be connected to Chiron. The sun will be conjunct Chiron during that full moon as well. So I also want to mention Mercury station direct earlier in the month, but I give it till it goes into Aries on April 19th, when it really kind of regains that sense of clarity. But you may have like a notion of like a plan forming or beginnings or clarity in home matters when that happens. April 18th, Mars goes into Leo. It'll be going into your ninth house. So it's leaving your eighth house, shared finances, inheritance, investments, loan, credit cards. That all may have been a little bit fraught since January, or there's just a lot of action and energy. Maybe it's like, oh, fuck, I owe back taxes or something like that, you know, during that transit, or having to sort of look at how you are entangled with other people's stuff, essentially since January. And now that Mars has sort of moved out of that part of your chart, we can kind of breathe a little bit easier. And Mars is kind of at its full power. Well, not its full power, but it's in a lot better condition in Leo. So Mars is going to go into your ninth house, Sagittarius, and I think that you might just be speaking up about your beliefs more, or putting energy and motivation, because Mars can be motivation, into education, spirituality, things like travel. Or things connected to broadcasting and media. We're going to be putting a lot more action and energy into those things. So I could see you like, let's put together some travel plans, or there's just going to be, I kind of just feel like in general, this could just be a 2-month period of just speaking out more, you know, of speaking out or defending your beliefs. Mars is going to oppose Pluto in your third house of communication and daily ritual. But I'm going to talk about that when we get to this Taurus new moon on the 27th. So we have a Taurus new moon on April 27th, and that is going to be there's some really good things about this new moon. There's some really intense things about it. So this new moon is going to square an ongoing Mars-Pluto opposition in your ninth and third houses. So there could be like an intensity, an obsession, power struggles, just kind of this bullheaded obsession with maybe things that you're studying or you're learning, or things connected to your beliefs. It could be that your tongue is just very sharp during this time, that you're like going to communicate exactly what you want to say. You don't really care, you know. It's like, I'm speaking up for what is right, and I don't care about your feelings in this process. Or it could be something intense, like related to international travel or anything with higher education or your spirituality. It's like there's something very intense about those things at this time. And so that new moon is going to really kind of activate that aspect. This new moon is a new beginning, however, and a reset and a new opportunity connected to anything connected to work projects, employment, your coworkers, people who work for you, as well as health routines and how you take care of your physical health and how you take care of yourself. So this is a new beginning in this area. And the moon does really like to be in Taurus. It does offer some comfort and offers more security. This new moon is being ruled by a beautiful Venus in Pisces in your fourth house. Perhaps there's like a better relationships with family that comes in, or something connected to home and domestic life with this new moon. And nevertheless, this would be a good new moon to like, definitely, yes, health and work things, but also just like, I'm taking myself out to lunch, you know, I'm getting together with family and we're having a picnic, like that kind of thing. I'm having family over for like a meal is kind of how I sort of see this new moon for you. We also have Sagittarius, so Sagittarius rising, Venus will be re-entering Aries on April 30th, and she's going to be there until about June 6th. You know, she initially went retrograde here, about 9 degrees. And, you know, so you were revising, reviewing, like romantic relationships, things connected to pregnancy and childbirth, your creative projects, things that bring you joy, hobbies and recreation. And perhaps they kind of lost their luster. You were kind of just rethinking those things or connecting to those things from the past. But now Venus has a lot more clarity. This would be, you know, over the next couple week period until June 6th. Definitely time to, if you're single, it could bring in some new sort of romantic and sexual relationships. It could kind of reinvigorate your creativity and your kind of more fun spaces. It could reinvigorate and bring some joy and some ease to your creative projects as well. So that's what we have for Sagittarius, and I'm on to my last 4 signs. We're going to talk about Capricorn now. Okay, Capricorn rising, what do we got for you? I gotta turn this guy so you can see a little better. So Mercury's direct in Pisces on April 7th. Again, I kind of give that until April 19th for it to return to kind of its full strength and full clarity. But nonetheless, it is going direct in your 3rd house of correspondence and communication. You know, this is kind of the energy of getting your daily routines and your emails kind of sorted. Your commute, your daily kind of conversation, or sort of mundane things in your life, kind of getting that shit sorted out. So that's happening. And then we have the full moon on April 12th, so just 5 days after that. And that really coincides with Venus going direct. So I was actually talking about Venus going direct. So Venus goes direct essentially like the next day on April 13th, but it's essentially stationing direct on the day of the full moon. And Venus happens to rule that full moon since that full moon is in Libra. So first of all, Venus is going direct in your 3rd house. Remember that Venus stationed direct in your 4th house of home and family and property and ancestors and roots in your home spaces and private spaces. So, you know, I think that you've had some sort of journey on like review, getting more clarity on relationships with those sort of topics since the beginning of March. And then Venus went into your 3rd house of communication and correspondences and sort of daily routines, learning, studying, and short distance travel. And local community, where it will be stationing direct. And it'll be stationing direct conjunct Saturn, the planet of long-term commitments. So you're like more, so in a general sense, Venus stationing direct, it's like, yeah, you're going to have a better idea of what relationships and long-term commitments you are wanting to commit yourself to. And more clarity around, also like, more clarity around career stuff, which I'm going to bring up with the full moon, as well as like romance and creativity stuff, because it rules both of these houses here. But Venus stationing direct in your 3rd, it could be like relationships with neighbors, siblings, childhood friends, just like people like the 3rd house is like people around you in your sort of everyday kind of life, essentially. So since 3rd house has a lot to do with like, you know, I had to go and stop and look and be like, stop and really think about the 3rd house. This is sort of like your everyday surroundings. There's a tone of, there's been like a tone of seriousness or depth or like more responsibility and commitment or delays and limitations in this area of your chart since Saturn entered your 3rd house on March 2023. So it's like there's more importance to your thoughts, your communications. It could be that you're really working on like learning something or some kind of certification or class or course or something like that. Or there's something more serious kind of going on with siblings or just like crystallizing information and learning things. So with Venus stationing direct here, it's like, I just feel like there's more beauty to be found in everyday kind of conversations and correspondences, like your daily rituals and routines. I'm going to say there's also a bit of sanctity, is that a word, or like divinity here, because this is also considered the house of the goddess. So like this would be a good time to start some kind of like devotional relationship, like with like the goddess, right? So we could say like pulling a tarot card and sort of journaling every day. This would be like a time to kind of commit to some kind of practice like that, or some kind of thing where you're doing some kind of divination or journaling or like something like this, just because Venus in Pisces does kind of give it this kind of spiritual, kind of mystical vibe, and it's like deepening something here. So yeah, but I really kind of want to say that the main thing that I'm looking at would be this full moon happening in your 10th house. So the full moon kind of announces the arrival of Venus stationing direct. She sort of freshly emerged from the underworld and with a lot more clarity. And for you, this is going to be the first new or full moon in Libra that has not been an eclipse since 2023. So you've had a lot, I'm assuming, of beginnings, endings, changes, fluctuation, you know, new chapters ending with career and with home and family, particularly with the nodes that have been in Libra and Aries, mostly through like last year and through 2023. maybe like letting something go in career or like endings or decrease. And now that we have this kind of fresh perspective, also we just had a solar eclipse here about on March 29th, like some kind of ending or beginning with family and home matters. But this is going to bring more attention to there's some kind of completion or new era, new awareness or culmination happening in your career sector. It could be with authority figures. It also could be with public and your with personal and public personal and public reputation matters as well. So you could just be like, this could be like the completion of a goal. This could be like the realization of that we're wanting to do something else, or that some sort of thing in your career is happening. It could just be that there's a lot of activity and attention around it right now, or a lot more awareness of it. Or it could be like important conversations and correspondences with authority figures or connected to career. Like there's a lot of communication relating to your career here. This full moon is also going to be square Mars. There's maybe a confrontational conversation or having to assert yourself or having some kind of edgy conversation with someone around this full moon. Because, Mars kind of brings an irritation, a little bit of, irritableness, or having to assert yourself, because with this full moon is about balance and justice and kind of correcting things in relationships. And, square Mars is sort of like having to have maybe an uncomfortable conversation with like a partner or a business partner, some kind of someone in your relationship, one-on-one space. And it could be connected to sort of career stuff, or some kind of conversation that you're having, maybe a little bit uncomfortable. I'm going to say that there is maybe something healing or something that you're aware of as far as like healing from your wounds or some kind of healing process taking place, maybe connected to fourth house. So home, family, property, ancestors, roots, private matters. That's because the sun during this full moon will be conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer. So if we skip forward to April 18th, we have Mars leaving Cancer for Leo. And Mars is going to be in Leo for the next 2 months. Mars is action, energy, motivation, but also inflammation and irritation. And it's going into your 8th house. So Mars has been in Cancer for a long time. Since January, there was a big lengthy retrograde. I feel like it was in Cancer forever. So partnership things may have been sticky for you for the past month. Maybe some tensions arising in partnerships, more motivation and energy here, but having to work out maybe some conflicts, or there could have been like an actual separation in your relationship space the past few months. But now Mars is sort of out of that part of your chart and moved into your 8th house. Mars does much better in Leo than it does in Cancer. Mars' motivation in Cancer is kind of up and down. Its energy is kind of up and down. It's more emotional. It's more sensitive. Mars in Leo is not as sensitive, and has far more energy, or its energy levels are much more stable. I could see you with Mars in the 8th house over the next 2 months, from April 18th to June 18th. There's much more activity and energy and action kind of going on in your financial life. But this is things connected to investments, loans, credits, debts, inheritances, taxes, partners' money, other people's money that you're connected to, fundraising. There's a lot more action in these areas. I could see you having a sort of obsession or single-minded commitment kind of going on here. It's like, I will get the money I want. I will get the money I need. It's kind of like the feeling that I'm kind of getting here, because Mars is going to be opposing Pluto during Mars's time in Leo during April. And that can bring definitely power struggles, obsession, intensity around a goal. And that's happening across your financial axis. It's like there's something really kind of, it doesn't have to be intense bad, it's more just like, I kind of feel this like intense fixation. Mars and Pluto are both in fixed signs. These are very determined, kind of tenacious energies. This could be a power struggle with something connected to finances, but it could also just be like you're really trying to meet some kind of financial goal during April. And this really kind of comes to a head on April 27th during a new moon in Taurus. This new moon in Taurus forms a T-square with this Mars and Pluto opposition. And it And so it's really going to kind of highlight that energy that I just talked about. So there is an intensity around this new moon. However, this is also a really nice new moon in other aspects, because the new moon, or the moon, really likes being in Taurus. She's exalted in Taurus, is able to comfort and soothe and do the things that the moon does best, and really does really well at kind of trying to bring material security as well. There could be a new beginning or a reset energy. There is a new beginning or reset energy, and it's going to be connected to romantic relationships. This could definitely be a time to kind of put yourself out there and kind of see what happens. It could renew your creative space, and you could just this would be like a really nice time to I'm going to paint something in my home, or I'm going to get like an artistic project going, or scrapbook, or whatever, or just anything that kind of makes you happy and is something's kind of recreational. For some people, that's like, I'm going to build a table, like in my workshop. Like that's also fifth house. It doesn't have to be just artistic things. Although your fifth house is ruled by Taurus, so it does give a earthy, sensual, artistic vibe to your fifth house, which is creative things, artistic hobbies, romance. It could be something new regarding children in your life, or childbirth, or or a creative project that you are giving birth to, and just generally kind of rejuvenates anything that kind of gives you pleasure in life. Is very much kind of connected to this new moon. So I'd say do something fun on this Taurus new moon. Enjoy your connections with other people in your relationships, and share a meal, because this is ruled by Venus in Pisces. Venus, the planet of love, beauty, relationships, and connection, in the sign where she's also exalted here. So she's really kind of wanting to have like a nice conversation over like a glass of wine, or like whatever it is. There's a really nice kind of thing going on with this Taurus new moon, despite this really intensity that we're kind of feeling. April 30th, Venus is going to go into Aries. So Venus will be re-entering Aries, because she went retrograde in Aries just a few weeks ago, when she went retrograde in Aries at the beginning of March. So she's going to be re-entering Aries, which means she's going to be re-entering your fourth house of home and family. We might have been rethinking, revising something connected to parents, home, property, real estate, ancestors' roots. It can also just even being like, I need to rethink my whole decorating scheme at home. Like, it doesn't have to be that serious, but it could be like, I hate my ugly couch. Actually, that's me in real life. I need to get a new couch. Venus going through your fourth house now, she's much more clear on what she wants. It's much more of a better time to make these permanent kind of aesthetic or beauty decisions connected to home, or just bring some smoothing things out and magnetizing opportunities connected to home, family, and real estate over the next month and week. Because she's going to be in Aries until about June 6th. So definitely helping to smooth things over in the home. So that is Capricorn. Let us move on to Aquarius. All right, Aquarius rising. Let's talk about Mercury going direct. Goes direct on April 7th in your second house of money. However, I would say you're not going to be getting there's a glimmer of clarity or new beginnings kind of connected to finances and money and your financial decisions. However, Mercury doesn't really reach its full ability to bring clear decision making, I think, until around April 19th. So just be aware of that, because it's in the sign of its fall. It's in the sign of its detriment. It's near Neptune, which can cloud things. It doesn't get out of Pisces and out of Neptune's orb until about April 19th. And then at that point, just sort of like we'll all be a little bit able to make kind of clearer sort of decisions. April 12th is that full moon in Libra. It is ruled by a stationing direct Venus. Venus stations the next day. So it's sort of like this full moon heralds the return of Venus from the underworld. And Venus, you have been rethinking, reviewing, revising things connected to your daily rituals, your correspondences, what you're learning and studying, your daily environment, and money stuff. Because Venus will be stationing direct in your second house of cash, movable assets, but also like worth and value is also part of this as well. Like, how much am I worth? That kind of thing. And I think that you have really been aware of the value, of your own worth and your own value and the value of money since March 2023, because Saturn has parked its ass in your second house of money since then. And Venus is going to be stationing direct conjunct Saturn. So you're going to be very aware about your long-term financial commitments, or like if you've been considering some kind of purchase, some kind of like big investment or big purchase, you're going to have a lot more clarity around that, around the time of the full moon, and around your money in general, and what you want to spend money on, and how much, and what is worth your time, how much your time and value is worth as well. um, Also, keep in mind, Venus does rule your fourth house of home and family. There can be some home and family kind of stuff in there as well, things around like beliefs and spirituality and travel, because it does rule your ninth house as well, but definitely money stuff. This full moon, kind of coming back to that ninth house, is in Libra. This is the first newer full moon in Libra that is not an eclipse since 2023. So, your third and ninth houses have been pretty busy the last couple years. We just had a solar eclipse on March 29th that maybe brought a beginning or an ending or closure of a cycle connected to learning, studying your correspondences, daily rituals, and kind of everyday life. And whatever's going on with this full moon, yes, there is a connection to money and money decisions, but also this full moon, I think, is going to connect you to your spirituality, to your divinity, to something about connection to your higher mind. There could be a completion or culmination on something connected to like higher education, something connected to travel. It could also be something connected to broadcasting and media. These are all ninth house kind of endeavors. And there's just something, I think, like, it's almost like you're going to be aware of kind of like, well, what did I learn during this Venus retrograde? Or what did I learn during this process? Some kind of philosophical or spiritual kind of energy with this full moon. And also, just like, there is something emotional about this full moon, because Chiron, the wounded healer, will be conjunct the sun during this time of the full moon. So it's almost like maybe a very tender conversation you're having with someone, a tender correspondence, or something that makes you aware of like what you've healed from, or wounds, or something connected to that. But that's going on. This full moon is square Mars. It's the only kind of crunchy part of this full moon. So there can be a little bit of irritation, a little bit of edginess to this full moon, or the need to maybe resolve something in your health and work part of your chart. Because Mars has been in this part of your chart since January. A lot of action, a lot of energy, and a lot of irritation connected to work, coworkers, who you work with, your daily work routines, or kind of health stuff as well. So there's something about maybe taking action to resolve something or bring something back into balance. So that's that. We have April 18th. Mars is going to go into Leo. It's going to leave your sixth house finally. It's going to go into your seventh house. So here is where I think things can get a little tricky for you this month. Because Mars is going to come into an opposition with Pluto in your first house. So, Pluto has entered your sign, Aquarius, at the beginning of the year, and it's going to be there for the next 20 some years, right? Pluto on its own, you may not be feeling that much. It depends on where your ascendant is. If you're one of the later degrees ascendants, you won't really feel this. If you're a very early degree Pluto ascendant, you can feel that feeling of transformation happening already. Especially if you're like within like the first 5 degrees of Aquarius rising, you can maybe feel Pluto's presence. But Mars is going to enter Mars is motivation, action, energy. It enters your seventh house of partnerships and one-on-one relationships. It's going to be there for about 2 months, from April 18th to June 18th. And during April, it's going to come into the opposition with Pluto. There could be something around some kind of power struggle in relationships, or some kind of intensity or simmering obsession happening. It doesn't have to be a negative thing, but I do see it as kind of challenging. This could be a conflict with another person. It could just be that there's something about your relationship spaces that are just kind of intense for the next couple months, or that you're very active in working with people. This could be something as mundane that, like, let's say Mars enters your seventh house, and all of a sudden, you're like Mars is competition. So it could be like you're in competition with other people. It doesn't have to be that serious, but there's like a competitive energy in relationships, and just a very fiery energy when it comes to relationships. And this can come with a dose of some power struggles, or someone getting obsessed with you, or you getting obsessed with someone else. It's that kind of energy. And this is really kind of magnified, or there's something working itself out near the new moon in Taurus, because that opposition will be complete. It will be like perfecting or kind of reaching that exact moment the day before the Taurus new moon on April 27th. So this Taurus new moon comes in and makes a T-square to this energy, and it really kind of magnifies and shows us kind of what's going on with it. This new moon in Taurus, there's a lot of positives to this new moon, but it does kind of magnify that intensity or kind of show us what's going on with that. This kind of feels like you might be having a, oh, hold on, I'm at the wrong rising sign. There could be something going on with family at this time. This could be a new beginning, a new reset, like, oh, we've been thinking about moving or changing something with home, or something going, or there is some new reset or new beginning happening with family, but there is maybe something intense about it, or something about like maybe having an intense conversation with family or in your relationships or something like that. That just kind of triggers this kind of intensity energy that I was talking about. But at the same time, this could be like maybe this new beginning that is coming in for you in family or in home maybe just feels like transformative, like it's really intense. There's something intense about it. But there are some really positives to this Taurus new moon too, because first of all, the moon being in Taurus itself, she's able to bring comfort, she's able to soothe, she's able to maybe add some, like, to help bring some sort of material security to, your home life here. And it's also being ruled by a very powerful Venus in this Venus in Pisces in your home sector, in your financial sector. So it's like whatever's happening for you, it's like you're able to attract the resources that you need, or you're able to bring in maybe more security for yourself. And maybe this is a time where you're like, I'm going to treat myself to something, like I'm going to buy something really cute and nice for my house, because Venus from the second house, and Venus can be luxury, this sort of luxury purchases, or just significant purchase or something connected to home and family. So it could be something connected to that. So, but anyway, an earthy, sensual, definitely some good things going on with this new moon, but there is this intensity that I'm kind of feeling for you here as well. April 30th, Venus moves into Aries, and she's going to move into your third house, where she went retrograde initially during her retrograde journey in March. So there could be something that we're kind of re-looking at with like fresh eyes and more clarity, bringing, smoothing things out, creating connections, bringing some luck, connected to your daily routine kind of spaces, correspondence, relationships with like your close friends or siblings, neighbors. This would be like, I'm going to have my neighbors over for a potluck, or I'm going to chat my barista up at the coffee shop. I'm just going to find more pleasure in kind of my everyday kind of routines. Or just things like spicing up your commute, things connected to transportation and travel can factor here. Anything that you're learning or studying kind of gets a boost. So Venus will be going into Aries and will be there from April 30th until June 6th. Okay, last sign, Pisces. All right, Diva. What are we going to start with you? We're going to start with Mercury retrograde, or Mercury going direct. So Mercury goes direct on the 7th, and it's going to go direct in your first house. So just generally things around you, I think just kind of getting more clarity as far as kind of just general communication matters around you right now. Yes, those things start to clear up when that goes retrograde, or excuse me, when that goes direct on the 7th. However, you're going to want to wait, I think, if you still have these big decisions that you're making. Mercury isn't going to regain full clarity and like full, I think, its ability to make clear, informed decisions until like the 19th. Because in Pisces, Mercury is sort of really, it's not able to sort of see things as neutrally, especially because it's going to be connected with Neptune, the planet of like illusion. So just kind of be aware of that. So I'm like on a very general level. If you're like this, I'm waiting for this piece of correspondence, it's taking forever. And I'm like, we're just going to have to wait a little bit this month. But this full moon that we're having in Libra on April 12th, Venus is stationing direct the very next day in April 13th. And Libra rules Venus. So this is a very important Venus full moon. First of all, Venus will be stationing direct in your first house in Pisces. It went retrograde in your financial sector. Maybe you were rethinking your earned income, your value, your worth, your cash, your movable assets during that Venus retrograde. And when it goes back into your first house, it's like we're feeling this, like, what do we want to commit to in our life? What are the relationships that are going to be worth it for the long haul? What are they bringing to the table? What am I bringing to the table around this Venus direct station? Because Venus will be stationing direct in with Saturn, and in your first house. Saturn is the planet of long-term commitments. So we're thinking about like just kind of these lessons around like self-worth. I think what relationships are really worth it to us, what things we are wanting to devote ourselves to and to commit to. So that is happening. I think you're going to be feeling that in a very personal way. This is a time to, I think, when Venus stations direct, this could be a time, Venus is known for like adorning things. Like in ancient times, it was sort of like when we would sort of wear garments, like religious garments are associated with like Venus. So if you really want to honor this Venus thing, you could feel a pull to like, I kind of want to update my wardrobe a little bit and just adorn myself and treat myself really well as like a vessel of the goddess of beauty. It doesn't have to be that deep. I could also just be like, yeah, I'm going to make I'm going to buy a piece for my wardrobe that is high quality, which is Venus in Pisces, and also with Saturn in Pisces as well. That lasts a long time. Something about treating myself, but not to something that's just a throwaway. It's like something that's quality, something that's made well, something that I can feel beautiful in, because there's this like renewed sense of worth with Venus going direct in your first house. And that will be helpful for your relationships and stuff overall. But also, let's talk about money. So this full moon is Libra. It is in your 8th house of shared finances, your partner's money, retirement income, loans, investments, credit cards, student loans, inheritances, taxes, that kind of thing. So there could be like a financial decision that's reached around this time, or just like a realization of what you want to do with your money. Or there's something happening with your partner's money, or there's a lot of realizations around just like the 8th house is connected to like other people's money, resources, and backing. So it's like other people's support. So it's kind of like how our energy gets entangled with other people in our most intimate relationships. And it could be some insights like connected to that. And maybe how we like kind of give our power away too. It's like, oh, I've been giving my power away and I haven't even realized it. But on a more mundane level, it could be financial. You did just have a solar eclipse 2 weeks prior to this on March 29th in your 2nd house of money, of worth, of income. And you've been having a lot of changes in your money houses, because we've been having eclipses in these signs since 2023. That March 29th one was the very last one. It closes some cycle out. And it's like, I can see you being like, who do I want to share my time and energy with? How much am I worth? What is my money worth? It could be also something as mundane as like a financial decision on like a loan or a credit card or something like that as well. It could be like, I'm reinvesting my money, or I'm like looking at a different interest rate or something connected to that. But definitely very relationship kind of oriented energy with this full moon in Libra. This full moon is also going to be square Mars in your 5th house of children, of romance, of creative projects. Could be a time to assert yourself or speak up for yourself regarding kind of one of these topics. Or maybe there's like a little edginess or irritation with a child, or perhaps there's just a lot of effort or energy you're putting into creative things right now as well. There is a little edginess or irritation to this full moon because it is connected to Mars. But also this full moon is very much about balance and justice and getting things in order. And if there's something out of whack in relationships, you're going to speak up about it, even though it might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. So April 18th, Mars goes into the sign of Leo. Hold on, I need to say. Mars goes into Leo. Mars has been kind of wreaking havoc in your 5th house of creativity, of children, of romance, matters connected to the heart since January. Oh, there was that big review process with Mars going retrograde there, or maybe some frustration and irritation. It's been direct for a little while, so maybe things have been kind of straightening themselves out, but there's been a big emphasis on those topics for you. And because Mars is sort of, its motivation is unstable in Cancer. It kind of fluctuates and goes up and down. Mars in Leo is a much stronger place for Mars to be. I could see you putting time and energy into your work routines, how you work, your day job, getting new work projects. If you're seeking more work, you're like gonna be getting it during this energy. It's like I'm not gonna fucking stop until I'm getting my hours or getting this job. It could also be a lot of energy going into improving your health, or dealing with health issues, or how you how you take care of your physical body. Mars can be inflammation and irritation, especially in like a day chart if you're born during the daytime. So it might just kind of, I would just say, make sure that you're not pushing yourself too hard as far as energy levels. Like, yes, Mars and Leo is better for energy, but certainly it can just bring a little irritation. So there could be, Mars can sometimes bring up like a conflict or something. It's like, hey, this work thing isn't working for me. I'm going to try to make it right, or I'm trying to fix something with like my health routine. There's just a lot of energy going into those topics with Mars going into Leo. Mars does begin to form an opposition to Pluto in your 12th house. When Mars goes into Leo, that'll be precise right around the Taurus new moon. So let's explain what that is. So April 27th, we have a Taurus new moon, and this really kind of highlights, magnifies this Mars-Pluto opposition. There's some tension you're having to resolve in the parts of your chart that are about health and work, and also spiritual and long-term and mental health things. So it's like, it could be that you're feeling like, hey, I really feel like I need to rest and retreat, or to make sure I'm taking care of my mental health, but my job is having me work too much, or something like that. Or there's this intensity, there's a single-minded obsession, there's maybe even a power struggle in these sort of health houses in your chart. So it's like finding balance between these two things is going to be a priority for you, I feel like, in April, or balancing like mental health with physical health or something like that, or trying to find some sort of work health balance. It's kind of what I'm kind of seeing this as, because there's some intensity around these topics. And this Taurus new moon is going to kind of highlight that. But there's some really good things going on with this new moon as well, where this, a new moon it's a beginning, it's a reset. The moon really likes to be in Taurus. It can offer a lot of comfort and soothing and security. And it's ruled by Venus in Pisces, a Venus in your sign. So, Venus, the planet of love, beauty, art, pleasure. This is a really, anything where we're like connecting to people, we're enjoying ourselves, we're connecting to art, we're indulging in earthly pleasures, we're building material security. This new moon is really good for that. And again, this could be kind of a little treat yourself energy as well, because it's Venus in your first house. This new moon, there could be like a new beginning or reset energy, or something new connected to maybe like a class or something that you're learning, some kind of important communication project or correspondence that you're having, something connected to commute, how you get places, or anything connected to your general kind of daily environment. Like, this would be a really good day to like go to a coffee shop and like chin up your barista, and like, go out go out to lunch with a friend and catch up. It's like kind of the vibe of this. It's like putting a little magic into your everyday life, a little luxury into your everyday life, but also new things connected to correspondence and communication projects. So learning something new, something also connected to maybe like a short distance trip or something like that as well. So that's what we have for this Taurus new moon. So last thing is Venus going into Aries. Venus will be going into Aries on April 30th. Let me move this back. My system doesn't show yet, but it will. So it goes into Venus later in the day on April 30th. It'll be there until June 6th. Venus will be re-entering your second house of money and finances and cash assets, your also worth and value here. So we did a big review, revise process, and like, what is my worth actually? I got to move some money around. I got to figure out budgeting and finances and stuff. Venus moving through here until June 6th will help you attract, smooth over, magnetize, bring a little luck, an opportunity into, hey, if you need to hustle a little bit, you need to make some money, you want to raise your prices, this could also just maybe be drawing in a little extra money. This could be a good time to bring in like a secondary income source, or just do something on the side. Also, a pretty decent time for any kind of purchases or spending or something like that. So that is that. So hopefully you enjoyed this new format, brought you a little insight on this month. Please let me know if you enjoyed it in the comments, if you have made it this far. And I'm just wishing everyone, a good, productive, lovely April 2025. And again, if you want to work with me, you can find me at dogstarOracle.com. All the links are going to be in the comments. You can find me on Instagram at DogStarOracle, TikTok, DogStarOracle. So hope to see more of you around here. And thanks so much. And I'll talk to y'all soon. Happy April.